Hello. I didn't really commit fully. I committed too much. It's another day. It's another stream in fascist America. Hello. Welcome to whatever this is, an attempt at providing education, advocacy, and a little common sense in this digital wasteland. My name is Aubri Devashrayee. And today, as in all Mondays, I'm going to go over current event roundup, which really just means what it sounds like. Current events that have happened over the weekend. And we have a lot of things happening. There are illegal wars happening, a lot in national politics. There is a lot of buffoonery happening, not only on the world stage, but nationally, trying to rig so many different things for elections and just make life harder and marginalize women further. That's a thing. It's exhausting living in fascist America, but we have to talk about these things, which is why I'm going to go over the stuff that's most difficult, heaviest subject matter at the beginning. I always like to start off with a funny video, which I will still do, but then I'll get into the heavy stuff and continue to move on through the other topics. Speaking of, the Oscars happened, and we're not looking to the Oscars for any sort of validation as to what good art is, just to make this clear. But I am interested to see how things shake out. And I haven't heard about all of the winners yet. I know a few of them, that Michael B. Jordan won Best Actor, which I thought was very deserved. Jessie Buckley won Best Actress for Hamnet, which I also thought was deserved. One Battle After Another won Best Picture, which that movie was not my favorite, I have to say. Hello, Tan. Welcome, welcome. How was your weekend? But that's really about the extent of what I know about what happened at the Oscars. I do like to be a petty bitch and look at all the fashions and critique them. So I'm gonna do that. We can go over these together. There was quite a lot of appropriation from what I was seeing, especially with this whole like Scandinavian scarf that like white girls are wearing now, but really it's just a dupatta. So we're going to address that as well with the fashion of it all. And then also talk about some of these advocacy moments that happened at the Oscars that I was kind of surprised by, but glad to hear about, glad to see. I think these celebrities can go even harder, but it's also a class issue, right? They're in this exclusive elite class of wealth and fame that insulates them from the rest of us working people. So I'm going to address that as well. And then talk about class reductionism as a way for taking some of our power back. It's combing through capitalism because we can't ignore it. Unfortunately not. We have to talk about the bullshit happening, but then also, since things are so bleak and the powers that be wish for our despair, I want to focus more on things that we can do as well. Different organizing techniques, how we can be able to resist what's happening, because we have very little options available to us, to be honest, because of how disempowered we are throughout all of these years of fascist legislation and policy and warmongering and exploitation and such. But we do have some things that we really need to take advantage of. Hello, Aliana. Welcome, welcome. Glad to hear that your weekend was good. And you did the vocal technique stuff. That's fun. Did you have a good time while you were doing it? In a month's time. Oh, damn. I mean, we have a Second Amendment for a reason. I have come around in a very bizarre way to gun ownership. I grew up being in Utah, having family members that were for it, and then I like was for it just out of default and then became very against it, especially with like more shootings becoming more prevalent. And then understanding as well, being a queer multiracial person, that I was like, oh yeah, there's a reason why people have firearms. Especially talking about gun control laws being very racist and trying to specifically make it so that Black and Indigenous people can't have firearms. Oh, you're Canadian. Okay. Yeah, because fascism exists. Exactly. Gun control laws make it harder for minorities to be armed. Yes, because they know an armed minority is harder to oppress. Exactly. And this is something that I think, especially growing up in predominantly white spaces with like very colonized minds and active colonization with like religion and like Zionism in Utah, of saying like, oh, this land belongs to us, we're kicking indigenous people off. Like, that's the mentality here, that it's like there's a lot of deconstructing that I had to do with some of this stuff. The Mohawk tribe showed us this in the 90s during the OK crisis when they rose up with illegal guns and shot cops and had a face off with the reservist infantry. Exactly. Two Canadians in the house. Yeah, there is definitely a reason for it. So, speaking of revolutionary action, um, as we're talking about like some of these like class-based current events, like with the Oscars, I want to talk about class reductionism and how we also find liberation in this society, because no one's coming to save us. We all know this. I guess we all don't know this, but a lot of us know this. People who are marginalized, many of us know this. And we need to use the tools that we have available to achieve the human dignity that we all deserve. Oh, you have a license. Since the 1871-84 rifle I'm buying is pre 1899. Oh, that's right, with all of these like exceptions and stuff. Interesting. Yeah, I'm still learning a lot about gun ownership and such, but yes, it exists for a reason. Okay. Before we get into the heavier subject matter of what's happening with warfare, I want to watch a humorous video. And this features Patti Harrison. If you don't own a gun yet, I can teach you American laws. There are loopholes that allow you to ship guns to your doorstep. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for all of us to know more about the gun laws and what they do and why, and especially how they are disproportionately applied to different populations, to oppressed people specifically. Okay. So OBS, the streaming platform that I use, updated and it like looks slightly different in the audio section and I'm like figuring it out still. So if there's anything weird happening, let me know. I can't promise that I'll know how to fix it, but I will attempt. Okay. So this is from a while ago. I keep showing like tons of millennial core shit that shows you when I grew up. But anyway, this is something that I haven't seen in a very long time. And since we're going to discuss fashion, this is Patti Harrison at the Governor's Ball in 2017. You can purchase. Oh, interesting. Good to know. Okay.
Really hot trend I'm seeing right now at GovBall 2017, 2 plates on the ground. I'm Patti Harrison with Billboard, and we're here at GovBall 2017 to find out what separates GovBall fashion from the rest of the festivals. Come check it out. What does one fashion do at festival season?
From a guy's standpoint,
You can gender it if you want.
People have stickers and stuff.
Jules,
And
have you seen Jewel? She's here.
Oh no, we were talking about like jewels like these.
These people don't know who Jewel is. Jewel is a musician. Do you all know who Jewel is? Jewel. Singer. This is who Jewel is. Speaking of like 90s music, is an American singer-songwriter. Anyway, that's Jewel. These people don't know who Jewel is. But yeah, the rhinestones are cute.
Crowns for everyone.
Earth's ecosystem. It was nice while it lasted.
A small backpack. We both have small backpacks.
See, a trend that I noticed at last year's Gov Ball was huge backpacks. Backpacks to the ground, like actually taller than the person.
2017 is the year of small backpack.
They're like not even aware that she's joking. This one's just like on her phone. I have to say, this is something that I don't relate to with the younger generations of constantly being on your phone. I realize the irony of saying this, that I'm broadcasting this on a platform that most people are watching on their phones. I also watch streams on my phones and content, but I forget about my phone a lot. I forget to text people back. I forget where I left it places. And to be honest, this feels like it's a more liberated way to be moving throughout the world. I'm not as stressed in a lot of ways. And I just naturally kind of have an antipathy. Yes. I have an antipathy to technology. even though this is like what all of my jobs have been in, is like digital media, this is the irony. Maybe it's also this sort of angst towards the like overtly like capitalist way that these things are distributed and consume our lives. That is also a factor. But even without that, like, I would prefer just writing. And this is what I do a lot of the time. Anyway.
2017, you heard it here first, is the year that backpacks are small. What's a fashion trend that you hate?
The short shorts.
Very small clothes.
Yeah.
I'm not really into big chokers. Too many rings.
One time I was wearing too many rings. I tried to hop a turnstile, tore both my fingers off.
Exactly.
I'm gonna do a quick rapid fire game with you. It's true or false. T-shirts are gonna be huge in 2017.
False.
Many people will own shoes in 2017.
True.
If you're not wearing shoes, you should wear just socks.
Sandals. False.
Huh?
You have
False.
to wear sandals.
Okay, remember the rules of the game. It's just true or false. So as you can see, there
These
are
are just like completely made up questions, obviously. To be honest, I don't know what the governor's ball is. I should maybe look this up. I'll do that while this keeps playing.
new fashion trends happening at GovBall 2017. Lots of woos, lots of screams, tiny shorts, shoes on feet, screamy, runny girls. I can't get up from this.
Okay. Oh, that looks like AI slop. Ew. What is GovBall? New York's biggest party with 60 plus of the artists' best. Nope, the world's best artists. Okay, but what does that mean? Ah, that zooming in feature really threw me. Because I keep going down and then it keeps getting bigger, so it's like you aren't actually scrolling. That's trippy. That's probably the intention, though. This does seem like a place where many people would be tripping. I do think maybe those girls were. The iconic Flushing Meadows Corona Park in the heart of Queens. Okay, so it's a music festival. New York's favorite restaurants and select Queens night market vendors. That actually looks really fun. Yeah, this looks like it's a music festival. Anyway, that was Patti Harrison. Whoops. I just showed you the inner workings of the stream. That was private. Okay. So, getting into the current events, let's get this out of the way. Talking about all of the illegal warfare happening. This is Trump's war of arrogance and corruption. Mehdi Hasan was on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland, and I wanted to watch this. I haven't seen this yet.
On the Majority Report, pleasure to
When did this
welcome
come
back
out?
to
Was
the
it
program Mehdi
Oh, there you
Hasan,
go. Yeah.
journalist, founder, editor, and chief of Zateo. Mehdi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Too many titles. Apologies.
No worries.
Too many accomplishments.
Oh, you're so sweet
The humble
on a
brag.
Friday.
I am
on a
smooth
Friday
and
afternoon.
charming.
So it's now, I guess we're heading into are we heading into the third week of this war or the second week of this war? It
Heading
is.
into the
It's fun to see when they know each other pretty well. I mean, a lot of the guests that come on the Majority Report do know each other well, and also Mehdi brings on people who he knows, but they our colleagues clearly have more similar politics than what we see in mainstream media outlets. And they just like have a lot of fun banter, like healthy, like chemistry, just as people working in journalism. That's always nice to see. I don't know. There can just be like weird vibes sometimes. Even, I mean, it's less so, well, I guess it depends on what outlet. Independent media outlets, there can be weird vibes as well, especially the more fascist they get, obviously. We know this. But that is something that's refreshing about a lot of progressive media outlets, is that people are allowed to just like be more human, talk like how they want to, not be constrained by like, oh, you can't be a full person and talk in a manner that you care about. Like, you have to be very careful about how you speak. Then everything has to be approved by all these higher ups and billionaires and all that bullshit. It just strips away all of the humanity. And we see it's way more effective to relay the news when people are acting like normal human beings. Especially when they like are doing the work of actual journalism behind the scenes and not just covering for whatever the corporate interests are.
Week, right?
Anyway.
It has been like we're starting to see the articles now where the administration didn't know about the Strait of Hormuz. I just, this is, I don't know how much
Of course
you
they
were,
didn't.
you know, I just.
Do you think Donald Trump knows anything? Do you think he genuinely knows anything? This is not even being like dramatic, or I'm not even using hyperbole. Does he actually know anything about anything? That sounds like it's reductive, but that's what we're dealing with. The epitome of what it is to be reductive is in that person and the people that he surrounds himself with who don't know anything about anything, who just know about cruelty and white supremacy. And they're like, yeah, war, bombs, go boom. That's like, this is who's in charge. And this is also a hallmark of falling empires, is that it's not even necessarily that we have people coming in with all of these nefarious ideas to deconstruct everything in the government, which is happening now. That's what's happening in this falling empire. It, a lot of the time, has to do with this endless greed, unending greed, and hubris, which allows like the most privileged class to be extremely stupid and cruel. That stupidity, idiocy, ignorance, these are very significant factors in the fall of empires, where the empire is empowering especially certain populations so much who are benefiting the most from the system and all of the violence and wealth and politics that are happening, that they're allowed to be stupid. They're allowed to be idiotic and ignorant because the system was built in that way till we get to the point where nothing has been done about these kinds of people, where they're allowed to get stupider and more ignorant till we get to the point where we're at now, where it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna blow up the world and they don't even know why they're doing it. I mean, we need to also be looking at like the corruption that's happening here, but like they don't care about understanding things, because then that means they have to be like held accountable to some sort of thing of authority. So this is where we're at.
For the Iraq War, the feeling was very different. 60% of the U.S. was supportive of it. We had, there was a so-called coalition of the willing. It was really, they were really more sort of like, not too willing, but they were there. This is the complete opposite. This war is already as unpopular as the Iraq War, I think, ever was.
Yes.
And the administration doesn't seem to have had any idea of what they were doing.
Yeah, I think it took about till 2010, 11, 12 to get these levels of unpopularity for the Iraq War, like several years into the occupation, the surge, the civil war. We had these before the war, and certainly in the 2 weeks since the war began. Tomorrow is 2 weeks. I think it's a complete opposite in some ways, but similar in others. It's opposite in the way you suggested, which is unpopular before and after. In every war of my lifetime, every American war of my lifetime, no matter what the public opposition is, once troops get committed to action, the American public gets behind the war. Not this time. The war fatigue is real. People are not getting behind this war. They're not buying the justifications for it. We at Zateo did a joint poll with DropSite earlier this week, found that 52% of Americans think that Epstein was one of the reasons Trump went to war. They're not buying the distraction. And the American...
Hi, buddy. I didn't see you come in. Hi. You're so stealthy. Yeah. Oh, stretching. I don't know if you can see him. Hi. What you up to? Okay, I have to give him some pets. That's very cute. That's very cute. See if you can see him. Wow, that's so sassy. You can just barely see his tail. His fluffy orange tail. His little Cheeto. We'll see if he'll come up here. Maybe if I lay out this blanket, he might. Huh. Come here. Yeah, we just barely see his tail. Okay. Bye. Your adoption date is set. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. Are you getting both of them? The two kittens that you were talking about? That is so exciting. Congratulations. Yes, if you so desire to send any photos that are exceedingly cute, I will not object.
Was split on whether Donald Trump went to war for American interests or Israeli
That is
interests.
so fun. I'm
So
jealous.
I think that's an interesting polling here just so soon into this
I already
war.
have two
So it's
cats.
different to Iraq in that sense. It's also different in the sense that at least, I'm going to have to go take a shower after this. George Bush and Dick Cheney went to the UN, went to Congress. Like, as much as I think they are war criminals, well, Cheney's dead, but George Bush should be at The Hague, not painting paintings. I have to recognize that they did send Colin Powell with his little
Cheney's
vial.
dead. Yeah, and Cheney shouldn't have. So this is Dick Cheney, who is Liz Cheney's dad, who is a war criminal. He and Bush should have had consequences for their illegal, immoral Iraq war that was completely unwarranted. And we saw Dick Cheney be able to die from old age. We should not keep this pattern of letting this class of people get away with crimes against humanity and then being able to die of old age, not experience any consequences. It's absolutely absurd. But yeah, and George Bush is like painting paintings and like, to be honest, he's not horrible, which that pains me to say that. It pains me to say that he's not like completely talentless, but also he has a shit ton of free time. So like, and he shouldn't. If he is painting, he should be painting in prison.
Try and get a UN Security Council resolution. They did go to Congress in October of
The kind of prison, by the way, that like he helped set up and perpetuated with for-profit prisons. He needs to be in that, to be clear, where he doesn't have rights. Normally, this is not something that I wish upon people, but the people who are in charge and perpetuate this harm and monetarily benefit from it, their careers benefit from it as well, their families do, they need to experience the kind of harm that they have inflicted on people. This is like where like my Scorpio side comes out. I'm like, the older I get, the more I'm like, if you can get revenge, I think you should take it. Because we do not really get justice in this world. We can't expect to get real justice most of the time. So if you have an opening, go for it.
2002 and get Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and other senators to vote for authorization of force. That is not what this administration does. This administration just pulled it out of their backside like the night before and just bombed on Saturday morning with no warning, no heads up, no debate, no discussion, no media rollout, no nothing. So it's very different in that way. But just one quick thing, the similarity, you mentioned the Straits of Hormuz. The similarity is the ignorance.
The Libra
right?
is here
Both
to level the
administrations are
playing
led by people who
field.
have no clue what they're doing in the Middle
True.
East.
You're like, I don't believe in revenge. This has to be balanced. Although you're like, I do believe in justice. And then that's where I say, but what if they're the same thing? I enjoy Libras. Also, Libras have really great taste.
On the eve of the invasion of Iraq, a group of Kurdish
not all,
leaders went to see
but
George
that
Bush in
is
the
a
Oval
very
Office.
Libra
They
trait
came
I've
out
found.
and they told Peter Galbraith, a US diplomat at the time, they were stunned that weeks away from the invasion, George Bush did not know that Iraq was composed of Shias, Sunnis, and Kurds. Right? That was on the eve of the invasion, the ignorance at the highest level of government of Iraq's history and culture and demographic divides. This time round, you have people not knowing the difference between Khomeini and Khamenei. You have people being shocked that they attacked the Gulf countries, even though Iran has said for a decade, if you attack us, we're going to attack Gulf countries. And now this reporting that they had no idea that Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz, their only piece of leverage. So the ignorance is the same 23 years apart.
And I will say that when Bush and Cheney went to the UN or went on TV, they at least made the effort to lie.
Yes.
Like honestly, like we just put it.
They
like,
respected us enough.
You
to
have
lie to our
NFTs?
face.
Consent.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
we
am
just
I not
watched a
reading
clip
that right?
of Netanyahu's top aide and then Stephen Miller, both talking about why attack Iran now. The best the aide could come up with was, they've been an imminent threat for 47 years. May we all live with imminent threats that last that long.
Well, one defining feature of this administration, not just on Iran, but across the board, is their torturing of the English language, their complete emptying of terms and words that we all commonly understood.
God. Thank you. This is one of the many reasons why I love Mehdi Hasan. Talking about the importance of how they are using language, how fascists co-opt language, and how they establish meaning that actually is the opposite of the terms that they are using. Where it's the Orwellian phrase of peace is war, war is peace. That's what's happening now. Oh, we have to go to war because like this will help us have peace because we've been under imminent threat. They just completely twist words to mean the exact opposite. And they also are taking these actions and applying the most like savior types of words to things, where there's this overtly white Christian nationalism that they are assigning to the terms that they're using as well. And it just causes a lot of harm, not only in the way of like they're doing harm outside of the words that they're using, but because of the kind of language that they use, it makes it so other people feel like they can do the same thing, where there is buy-in from the populace and this accepted cruelty and dishonesty and lying where it encourages cognitive dissonance that is deeply harmful to a population's psyche, where we see like this loneliness epidemic and stuff. Maybe it's because they are acting like assholes and they believe these assholes in charge and are like, oh, we can do that. Oh, but when I act like an asshole, no one likes me and wants to be around me. Interesting. Like, of course. Can't lie, I do, but the Kappa emo is the Twitch equivalent of sarcasm, slight in a coy way. Interesting. I feel like I found out what NFTs were like a year after people were getting them. And I was like, oh, that was a thing? Okay. It's interesting because they were, of course, like sold as one thing, but like if you also get some joy from it, like, and it's not hurting anyone, like who cares? All those. Okay. Nice. I mean, if it brings you joy.
Donald Trump came back to office in January 2025. You know, we used to laugh at Bill Clinton saying depends what the meaning of is. This administration's approach to every issue is just to redefine
Malala
simple
made
words.
one?
Well, I mean, they are waging a
Malala
war on
become, like,
reality,
a
and it's quite out of the
capitalist now?
fascist playbook, because if
Not
nothing
to
means
say, like,
anything, then they
it's
can get
just
away with
exactly.
everything.
Like an
and what
NFT
strikes
makes
me
you a
about
capitalist, but what is she up to? I mean, I hope she is doing well. Like, she cares what I have to say. But anyway, like, when you get to be an activist like that, like, do you become, like, when you are thrust into the spotlight in this way, into, like, being a celebrity type of status? Like, what is that process like? And how do people maintain the sense of where they come from? Yeah, like Greta Thunberg as well. Yeah, they both seem to be like very activist focused still. Yeah. Maybe I need to do more catching up with the girls, see what they're up to. I mean, I've seen what Greta's doing more lately. She's doing a lot of pro-Palestine activism, which is really cool. Where is Malala? I'm going to catch up, see what she's up to.
our conversation comparing this to Iraq is how, since that period, even then, you know, of course, the war machine is going burr, but how disconnected right now our foreign policy is from public opinion at all. Like when we're talking about democracy, and you have this with the Democratic Party too, with Chuck Schumer being in bed with the Israel lobby and the military-industrial complex, there is, I think, that one of the lessons from the Iraq War was, one, Trump says I can get away with anything, even though this is clearly criminal because there was no prosecution of those war criminals. But two, this is our playground, and it doesn't really matter if we need to.
Okay. Getting out Wikipedia. Dinner time lurking. Fun. What are you gonna be having for dinner? Anything good? Okay, she returned in 2023 to become the youngest ever honorary fellow at Linacre College, Oxford. Okay, that was 3 years ago. Continuing activism. Here we go. Oh, yep. Yeah, she's donating to Gaza. She's still doing a lot of activism. Malala Day. That's cool. On the 12th of July. Malala Day is not my day. Today is the day of every woman, every boy, and every girl who have raised their voice for their rights. That's cool. She did a Jon Stewart interview. Yeah, she got the Peace Prize. We know this. Okay. So we got more updates like around 2023. At least from here. In October 2025, Yusufai's second memoir, Finding My Way, was published. She was writing a memoir as well. Very cool. Good for her. Ooh, you're having Mexican? You're making me hungry. I mean, you need to get a snack.
The American public in because we're more responsive to the lobbies here. This is also a story of increased political corruption from 20 years ago.
100%. And Donald Trump has learned those lessons. Obviously, he ran on a platform of pretending to be anti-war. We should never forget that. These people who are claiming betrayal are right. He completely...
Yeah, going back to this clip, Emma just like repeated basically what I was saying earlier, but maybe in a better way. I'll go back a little bit, where she's talking about how because there are all of these crimes that happened from the Iraq War that leaders were not held accountable, that it has allowed this permission structure for this overtly fascist regime to be acting in the ways that they are, and that they don't feel like they will have consequences to their actions. This is why it's important for these branches of government to be independent and actually do their fucking jobs, to like hold people accountable in power who are abusing and exploiting people, and that it has paved the way for everyone to be at the spot where we're at now.
Issue is just to redefine simple words.
Well, I mean, it's they are waging a war on reality, and it's quite out of the fascist playbook, because if nothing means anything, then they can get away with everything. And what strikes me about our conversation comparing this to Iraq is how, since that period, even then, you know, of course, the war machine is going burr, but how disconnected right now our foreign policy is from public opinion at all. Like when we're talking about democracy, and you have this with the Democratic Party too, with
how the Trump administration hasn't felt a need to manufacture consent whatsoever for this war. They didn't even go through the whole pageantry that the Bush administration did for the Iraq War, where they were lying to the general public and making up all of this bullshit and fear-mongering, and with a lot of xenophobia and a lot of Islamophobia and racism. And we didn't get any of that this time around. So now in hindsight, we're seeing them do a lot of Islamophobia. It's not an accident that a lot of their attacks, like they're doubling up attacks on Zohran Mamdani and his wife Rama Douaji, and also other people who are Muslim as well. And they're losing the narrative. I have been lurking on these conservative news outlets to see what the discourse is like. Let me tell you, they are losing the fucking narrative. The people in their base are not happy. This doesn't mean that they all aren't on board. That's not happening. But what is happening is that there is a significant faction that is breaking away because they feel like they were lied to about wars, which, like, they should have figured this out with, like, the track history of the Trump administration and his lying ass. But they are very upset. And there are more than ever people who are willing to come out and say that they disagree with what's happening, which is a shift in the base. It's like we saw this shift happen with the Epstein files. With this, there are going to be people who never leave this coalition, as we know, because they want to be as bigoted as they want to be. They're in a cult of disgusting cruelty and also poor taste. So this is where we're at, but it is starting to break things up, especially as the economic consequences are coming down the pipeline, where people are like, oh, I'm working class and I have to pay more for gas? What do you mean? You said that there weren't going to be wars, and I lost my job because all of these billionaires are replacing us with AI. It's like this is starting to have more of a material impact on the base. And some of them, again, still won't care, but they didn't even bother to manufacture consent for this. They don't even really care about maintaining the narrative. They just want to co-opt it all, which is why they have aligned themselves with these billionaires who are buying up all of these media outlets so that they don't have to get public opinion. They can just tell people what reality is rather than feel like they are beholden to other people's perceptions of reality and how they are upset with what is going on in this reality.
Being in bed with the Israel lobby and the military-industrial complex, there is, I think, that one of the lessons from the Iraq War was, one, Trump says I can get away with anything, even though this is clearly criminal because there was no prosecution of those war criminals. But two, this is our playground, and it doesn't really matter if we need to bring the American public in because we're more responsive to the lobbies here. This is also a story of increased political corruption from 20 years ago.
100%. And Donald Trump has learned those lessons. Obviously, he ran on a platform of pretending to be anti-war. We should never forget that. These people who are claiming betrayal are right. He completely lied to his base about being the anti-war guy. He lied in 2016 when he claimed he had been opposed to the Iraq war, Emma. Do you remember he said, I opposed Iraq? And then Andrew Kaczynski at K-File at CNN found the tape of Trump saying he supported the war before and after. So he obviously lied about his own anti-war credentials, which are non-existent. And yes, today, everything is on steroids. You mentioned corruption. Like, we don't even know the extent of the corruption involved in this decision to go to war. Trump is now loudly telling everyone, Jared Kushner told me to invade Iran. It's made that very clear. The question then becomes, why is that not a bigger story?
Yeah.
The president's unelected son-in-law, who at least in the first term had a job in government, he has no job in government other than to fly around the world with Witkoff negotiating deals he has no business negotiating. Jared Kushner, who takes money from the Saudis, who invests in Israeli enterprises, who is close to multiple foreign oligarchs and dictators, he told you to invade Iran based on his failed negotiations with the Iranians. What's behind all that? We know with this administration, it's always follow the money.
Yeah, and it's also been clear, I think, when we talk about those negotiations, that whether it was the foreign minister of Oman, who I think now it was 2 weeks ago, essentially, was on television
Stuart
saying,
Little is my son. Welcome, welcome. This is my partner. It's our anniversary today. We've been together for 9 years. It's a long time. This is what happens when you grow up Mormon. Good to see you.
they didn't understand what the Iranians had offered. They had offered to not stockpile enriched uranium. In other words, the Iranians wanted control of their own power for commercial uses, but you cannot build a weapon without stockpiling them.
No, Sam, are you trying to suggest that real estate developers from the US don't understand the details of nuclear enrichment programs and negotiations? That's an outrageous slur.
I almost think that it was willful even, but yeah.
That's an outrageous slur. Just the sarcasm, the dry delivery, that very British dry delivery.
Look.
Well, the funny thing about willful, Sam,
I would not send Witkoff to do that, but there's also I can imagine a world where there is people of competence who do not have also just huge incentive to not listen to, Witkoff might have been the perfect guy to send if you were like, I don't want to make a deal.
Yes.
So go negotiate.
With Trump, you never know, though, right? Because it could be evil genius, send Witkoff and Kushner to be the people who wreck the deal and then go to war. Or it's Trump's the gullible vessel for the neoconservatives who says, okay, I'm going to send my best friend and my son-in-law to go do this deal. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. That's always, with this administration, I'm never quite sure. It depends what side of bed I roll out of, whether I want to ascribe evil genius or dumb incompetence to the Trump administration. Clearly, these two people are not qualified to do anything. Witkoff shouldn't have been meeting with Putin. Putin ran circles around him. The other day, he went on TV and said, if Putin says he's not helping the Iranians, I take Putin's word for it, which is the dumbest thing you could ever say as a U.S. official. And of course, Jared Kushner, he said on the record, Sam, during the Biden administration, when he was asked, if your father-in-law becomes president again, will you return to government? He said to reporters on the record, no, I will not be involved in the next administration. Oh, not involved? You've only been responsible for the biggest single crisis of this administration. And by the way, people keep saying, I just saw Jonathan Greenblatt on CNN saying, it's anti-Semitic to suggest Jewish people did this. Well, no one suggests.
Yeah, that is a really great point. Jared Kushner said that he wasn't going to be involved in government again. He doesn't have a position right now. This is the theme, a major theme of this fascist regime, is that there are all of these unelected people who are just coming in, doing very consequential actions that are deeply harmful. Like the Elon Musk Doge situation, which, by the way, they have been doing a deposition lately, or a video came out of a deposition of these Doge idiots. And let me tell you, the Hitler Youth have never looked so stupid, and they already looked very dumb. That's what these people are, to be clear. They're just like these really dumb Hitler Youth boys that are just like, what? I don't know what that means. I was just following orders. That's like, shut up. You all are so bigoted and corrupt. Anyway, that's a side story, except not really, because it's continuing this through line of all of these unelected people that are just coming in and making very consequential decisions for the entire world, let alone like the American people, for this nation that they're making decisions for. It's having global consequences, like warfare and death. That's not good. Jared Kushner is directly benefiting from this situation and his involvement in the industrial war complex, as well as all of these other billionaires who are involved with the fascist regime.
Jewish people did this, except Donald Trump, right? The only person I've seen blame the Jews for this war is Donald Trump. He said it's Witkoff and Kushner's fault. I've not blamed the Jews. You've not blamed the Jews. I blamed Israel. Israel is not the Jews. I'm definitely blaming the Israeli government for this war.
Let's play this clip because I found it offensive in about 3 or 4 different ways, and it's impressive. He's able to sort of
within the first seconds of this clip, he does that conflation. He catches himself and conflates Jews with Israel immediately.
And Greenblatt, within the context of America, you'd be hard pressed to find an American in this country who has done more to conflate Judaism with Zionism. And this is, I believe, this segment was in response to a guy who drove his car into a temple in Michigan, was shot dead by the security guy. The only thing we know about this guy is that he had family, including children. I don't know if they were his or young cousins or what, killed by the Israelis in Lebanon in the past couple of days by bombing. Presumably, these children were not Hezbollah and were not, firing Katyushas at Israel. But here he is. I honestly don't know if there's an individual who's more responsible for the conflation of Judaism and Zionism than Jonathan Greenblatt.
We are seeing Jewish people, the Jewish state, blamed for the war in the Middle East. That is wrong.
No, pause it for a second.
The very first thing that he says The Jewish people are being blamed for this. No, you mean the Israeli government. But this is what is so dangerous about all of this, is that then they do this to claim that there's this argument of anti-Semitism, the conflation, but this leads to real anti-Semitism, where people then conflate themselves, believe this messaging that that allows them to feel like they can be anti-Semitic and compare what the Israeli government is doing and associate it to all Jewish people. That's anti-Semitism. And we see that this is on the rise in the country, especially from this fascist wing. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the fascists are doing fascism? Wow. And it is rampant, especially with this younger generation, where they can see the genocide that's happening, and they are using it to bolster their anti-Semitism and their rhetoric and their white supremacy, where we are seeing these younger content creators now be very overtly anti-Semitic, even more than they have been in the past. And unless we see more people in power come out and say, like, we need to stop this conflation of the state of Israel, the government of Israel, and its genocidal policies and its cruelty and its occupation and colonization, and we need to separate that from Jewish people and the Jewish religion. This is necessary, but we see how incapable the Democratic Party is of doing this because they accept AIPAC money. And they are also beholden to these corporate interests that are invested in the Israeli project by the Israeli government. So, like, this is deeply problematic, and it will only get worse until we see a more united front of leaders come out and start doing something about it. Because these kinds of optics matter. That's something that fascists understand. That what people see often is what they believe. And what they hear, especially when they don't want to have to do the heavy lifting of critical thinking or have empathy, that they want to indulge in their worst inclinations and to be cruel, and this allows a permission structure for people to do so.
Both Marco Rubio and Mike Johnson on day one of this war said we went in. They said this like they were in perfect sync. That we attacked Iran because Israel was going to attack Iran, and we knew that Iran would strike back at us.
So we
because
decided to
Israel attacked. So we preemptively attacked before Israel could, and then attack us.
They preemptively attacked, but they didn't preempt Iran. They preempted Israel.
Yeah,
exactly. And here's the thing.
Exactly.
He says the Jewish state. Presumably, he means Israel. The conflation of the Zionists and Jews, again, is why we don't know for sure what motivated this guy, and I am in obviously no way forgiving this. I have my son's bar mitzvah tomorrow. I certainly, hope that we are safe there. But it's this type of conflation that creates this, and if he says Jews, as Netanyahu does, makes no distinction between Jews around the world and Zionists, then what answer are we giving to someone like that who
It's been frustrating, Sam, it's frustrated me for years, because I've spent years telling people in the two communities, faith and political, that I'm part of. I'm on the left and I'm in the Muslim community. Those are two communities that are very critical of Israel, very critical of Zionism, as you know. I've spent years, I'm on the record, you can go look up my pieces, writing about anti-Semitism, writing about the evils of anti-Semitism, warning people on the pro-Palestine camp not to fall into the trap of anti-Semitism, right? But I've spent years telling people, make sure you do not mix up Jewish people with Israel. You do not mix up synagogues with Israel. You do not mix up Judaism with Zionism. I spent years, and people say to me in response, they're the ones doing it, right? And this is a problem. So you can hold two thoughts at the same time. I know it's very hard in the Twitter hot take days. These two thoughts are not mutually exclusive. Number one, there is absolutely no justification for attacking a synagogue in the US or anywhere else. All houses of worship should be protected from terrorist attacks, and no synagogue, no Jewish person in the United States should be blamed for what the Israeli military is doing in Lebanon or Iran. Let's just be very clear about that. That's one clear thought. The other clear thought is it is not helpful at a time like this for when people like me and others are saying, let's separate out Israel from the Jewish people, for Jonathan Greenblatt and other leaders of Jewish communal organizations saying, no. We're all the same. We're all Zionists.
Exactly.
We back Israel. We put Israeli flags outside our buildings. We hold Israeli settlement drives inside our institutions. That is not helpful. Of course, that doesn't justify violence, but it's ridiculously muddying of the water. It's a ridiculous muddying of the water.
It is helpful for Zionists, though, if you.
But it gives them cover, right?
It gives them cover. I mean, but they have made like a deal with the devil to a degree here by continuously conflating Judaism with Zionism as a way to protect the national project of Israel and the expansion of it. And so they have put Jewish people on the front lines to protect that. And then you have, television stations like this continuously amplifying it. He's making a choice to call it the Jewish state there and not the state of Israel.
So true.
And so,
as I say, I've not seen anyone on the left or in the pro-Palestine movement blame Jews for what happened last week. I've seen them blame Israel. I've seen Chris Murphy, Brian Schatz, Jewish senator from Hawaii. I've seen them blame Israel. Ruben Gallego, very centrist Democrat, blame Israel. I've not seen anyone blame the Jews. As I say, the only person who has blamed Jews for this war is Donald Trump. He blamed Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Yes.
Let's just listen to the
That's
rest
a
of this
great point.
Greenblatt. He's
Great point.
honestly the worst.
The Jewish state blamed for the war in the Middle East. That is wrong. It is wrong to scapegoat. It is wrong to hold Jewish people accountable for something you don't like on the other side of the planet. And we really need leaders on all sides, in politics, running for office, podcasters, to stop with the conspiracies, to stop with the accusations.
Podcasters. That's who he's really talking about. That's why he saved them till last. Because he was like, these are the people that are actually being listened to the most these days. This is the honest truth, because nobody is tuning into legacy media in the way that they were, because now everyone realizes how bought and sold all of these institutions are, especially as time has gone on, and how they've gotten even more fascist, just existing in late stage capitalism and capitulating to the system and perpetuating this harm because of that.
Tell us, but we oppose anti-Semitism. You don't get to say you're opposed to hate if you're trafficking in hateful conspiracy theories. Everyone needs to dial down the rhetoric, to take a step back, and to start doing something to stop this epidemic.
Like Mehdi's going to lose it.
I'm going to lose it. I hadn't heard the full clip. I'd only heard some of it.
Yeah.
I
He's
don't
like
know how
Rocky, and
many,
he's like,
seconds one would have to search to find him conflating Jews in this country with what happens on the other side of the planet.
So let me have a go. This is a man who says we shouldn't be obsessed with what's happening on the other side of the world. Why then, when Donald Trump moved the embassy illegally from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, why was Greenblatt there doing selfies? Why did he travel to the other side of the world to take part in that event that was a defiance of international law? Why did he do that if it was on the other side of the world and nothing to do with American Jews? Why is it that if you look at the ADL Twitter account and Jonathan Greenblatt's Twitter account, there are very few tweets about the Miami text group from the Republican Party talking about the Holocaust and making anti-Jewish remarks? But there are lots of tweets about Iran and Palestine and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Why is the focus?
Yes, this is why when we see these white supremacists have aligned with Zionists and how there is so much crossover between these things. I mean, not just white supremacists, I mean, these Christian nationalists with Zionists, and why there is so much in common, why it's so dangerous as well to not be calling out these very real instances of anti-Semitism and aggression towards Jewish people on the right that is primarily responsible for this behavior, for hate crimes overall, but this also includes people who are Jewish, that they are the problem. This idea of white supremacy, of an ethno state, of eugenics, of ethnic racial superiority, how this is the bonding tie, and how it must be torn asunder in order for us to have any sort of movement in trying to address hate when it comes to anti-Semitism. But this is what we see with all kinds of supremacy, and why we need to address hate crimes as a whole, not just be picking and choosing what we view as a hate crime depending on if it's politically beneficial for someone. That, like, if we are genuinely caring about all people, we need to address all of these situations instead of just saying that, like, oh, it's because, like, we're experiencing this anti-Semitism because of Iran. Well, have you ever considered that maybe it's because you've empowered these white supremacist, fascist, Christian nationalists who are also deeply anti-Semitic and talk about how much they love Hitler and shit? Like, that seems to be a problem. But this is why we see them aligning themselves with one another, is that they have this superiority complex and they are willing to do whatever it takes to keep it.
Black and ADL social media activities, always about Israel and Iran, and so little about the anti-Semitic attacks from the right here in the US and anti-Semitic statements from Republican politicians. And by the way, the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which a lot of people on the left don't like, a lot of people in the Palestinian movement don't like, because it makes some of the criticisms of Israel, anti-Zionist criticisms, anti-Semitic. But even that definition, which Greenblatt likes, says you cannot conflate Jews with Israel. So he's defying his own definition of anti-Semitism live on CNN by conflating Jewish people with the Jewish state. And when he says conspiracy theory, I interviewed Ben Rhodes. We just put it out this morning, the former Deputy National Security Advisor under Obama. He made the point. Are we supposed to ignore our own eyes and ears? Benjamin Netanyahu is on TV saying, I dreamed for this war for 40 years, and Donald Trump's the first president who let me do it. He's the first president who listened to me. So
Yeah, exactly. It's coming from the mouth of Satan Yahoo himself.
To ignore the prime minister of the Jewish state who is telling me 40 years I wanted this war and I finally got it. And if I say that, that makes me a conspiracy theorist. These people have, again, lost all meaning for all words.
And in addition to the conflation, that kind of impulse to tell people to not believe their lying eyes and ears is also going to increase anti-Semitism.
Agreed.
Because it underscores the trope, or the belief that you could say Zionists have control of many parts of our media, but we know that Zionism you can be a Christian Zionist, you can be a Jewish Zionist. That when you have like CBS being taken over by the Ellisons and Barry Weiss and this heavy hand in their coverage, and you see that coming out of CNN, like it creates this fundamental lack of trust between the people that are consuming this kind of content and the people that are putting 100%. It out there.
People are not dumb.
Yeah.
People are not dumb. And by the way, we have an administration, an Israeli and American government. The only good things about Trump and Netanyahu versus Bush and Cheney's lies is they do say the quiet part out loud. So Peter Hexer said this morning, David Ellison cannot take over CNN fast enough. Those are the words of the United States Defense Secretary at a press conference this morning, calling for a pro-administration billionaire to hurry up and take over a media channel so it can become state TV, right? So when you tell me later, oh, don't traffic in tropes about billionaire-owned, well, they're the ones saying it. Hexer is the one saying it, that I'm having my pro-Israeli billionaire friend buy a media network so that they can dictate the agenda. That is going to increase anti-Semitism, I'm sorry to say.
Let's see if he really said that.
Or more fake news from CNN reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course.
This smarmy shithead. Ew. Ew.
decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over that part, but that's amazing. But what we were talking about that report before the show, because clearly it's Scott Bessent and the energy secretary who were leaking, and they were pissed that they were shut out of these negotiations. It was the only national security team. So he's mad about that. But I want to take us back for a second to Monday when you were supposed to go on CNN and there was going to be this segment about Zohran Mamdani's wife's Instagram likes.
Biggest story in the world ever.
It's a slow news week, I know. And that segment got bumped because Trump went over on his speech. Okay, makes total sense. But he brought it back, Jake Tapper did, on Tuesday. But didn't invite Sam back this time. Instead, he had, Jonah Goldberg and Neera Tanden on.
No, Karen Finney.
No,
It was Karen Finney.
Karen Finney.
It was Karen Finney.
Oh, no. There's the separate segment that I'm talking. That was a different one, I think. But maybe
The Mamdani segment was Jonah Goldberg and Karen Finney.
Oh, Karen Finney. It wasn't your attendant. Sorry. But anyway, it could have been. But either way, two people that were really critical of Zohran Mamdani. And I just wonder, when you think that this Ellison takeover is potentially, pending, or it's coming around the corner, if there are certain anchors that are auditioning for top slots, because Tapper's been from 5, he's on 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. I wonder if he wants to be on in prime time. Just curious.
They did try him out in prime time for a while, and then he went back to his show when they lost one of their anchors. Look, Jake's had his agenda for a long time. I've known Jake for a long time. He's not hidden his views. But yes, why is there not a balanced panel? Of course not. That was an insane panel. Jonah Goldberg was allowed to say...
They've never had a balanced panel. This is something that CNN does, that they want to pretend like they're being fair and balanced. But of course, as they are capitulating to the administration, what they are viewing as balanced is becoming inevitably more fascist, where they are allowing very fascist people to be speaking freely, talking about the wildest lies and justifications for all of this violent bullshit with Scott fucking Jennings, like fuck that guy. The way that they bring on people and then refuse to offer that kind of visibility to people who are truly leftist is really wild. It's like they were going to have Sam on, but like they didn't end up having Sam on. Like Emma was on at one point. Like I know Mehdi has been on a panel there, but like they don't get people like them on these panels very often because they are not wanting this kind of robust criticism of the administration.
Shit without any pushback. He was able to say that Zohran Mamdani is an outright apologist. Mahmoud Khalil is an outright apologist for terrorism. Yeah. That's not true. You know how we know that's not true? Because the Trump administration never accused him of that either. The Trump administration couldn't find anything he said violent. They used this ridiculous 1952 law that Rubio used, which said that he's undermining our foreign policy by being anti-Semitic. They never actually charged him with any kind of terrorism links or terrorism offenses, which is very easy to do in the US, I should point out, for foreigners. So it's bullshit. The only person on that panel who supported terrorism is Jonah Goldberg, who supported the Iraq War and stuck by defending the Iraq War for many years afterwards. The only person who supported violence against civilians on that panel was Jonah Goldberg. So the irony of, and then by the way, the day before, Tapper had on Emily Schrader, who's like a former Israeli intelligence asset, and he said to her, what do the Iranian people think? What are they telling you? Which was an absurd segment there, even by US cable standards.
She got a lot. She has a plethora of
she is the voice of Iran.
That they really want to be
She is the
bombed.
voice of Iran. Of course she is the voice of Iran. No, the whole thing is absurd. To do a panel on the mayor's wife's Instagram likes or the mayor's iftar guests and ignore Tommy Tuberville saying that the iftar is 9/11, or Andy Ogle saying Muslims shouldn't belong in America, or how about the group chat from Miami with the Republicans talking about black people and Jews in the most vile way? How about the fact that the entire youth...
Yes, exactly. Just so insincere, bad faith how they're going about all of these conversations, and it needs to be called out. I'm glad that they're talking about this.
Wing of one of our two major political parties is basically Nazi now, and that gets no coverage from Jonathan Greenblatt or Jake Tapper and the rest.
We should add that if you wanted to go down the "what are wives doing on Instagram" beat, they could have also covered Representative Dan Goldman's wife,
who actually
while she was working on the campaign, incidentally, was retweeting
hateful
Matt Walsh's stuff as to how black people are getting all sorts of benefits with a new Amber Alert in California. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
that's
Dan Goldman is a representative from New York City, and Brad Lander is campaigning to unseat him, and I hope he does. I mean, Brad Lander is still Zionist. I don't love that. But he is infinitely better on Palestinian rights than Dan Goldman is, and just for marginalized people in general.
And just on Ramaduaji, just very quickly for people watching who are not following this, the mayor's wife, you'll notice that the coverage is very vague. She tweeted hateful stuff, anti-Israel stuff. Well, what did she actually tweet? If you go and actually look, she tweeted stuff about
we
Israel.
should say liked an Instagram, but
liked Instagram post. Even when you look at the ridiculous Free Press reporter, Olivia, whatever her name is, going through her likes, like it's insane. Even Olivia admits much of them are to do with Israel. They have nothing to do with anti-Semitism or Judaism. And even the October 7th stuff is liking posts saying on the day of, when, by the way, on the day of, no one knew the extent of the violence and killing on the day of. A lot of people were happy to see people, quote unquote, break out of a prison camp. That doesn't mean that they supported killing or rape or murder. In fact, they can't find a single post endorsing killing or rape or murder from Ramaduaji. So that even the attack on her is such bullshit compared to, as you say, Dan Goldman's wife, who we can actually identify hateful posts that she liked.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about, you said you spoke with Ben Rhodes recently, and he's been pretty vocal about the Democratic response to this.
Yes.
I mean, from the very beginning, it's clear that this was going to be at the least, a very unpopular war. Even if it had lasted like a number of days.
Yeah.
We have seen from Chuck Schumer in particular, but also Hakeem Jeffries, they have been, to the extent that they have any like decent positions on this,
they just love the war, because Chuck Schumer, clearly he is aligned with the Israeli Zionist project and loves what's happening, but is like, they didn't go about it the right way, going through Congress. And yet, we see that when it comes to these war powers resolutions, that they are refusing to hold the administration in check, hold them at bay. This is really devastating in keeping congressional war powers, but more so to human life, that they are part of this illegal death and violence that is happening, this imperialist aggression, not only in Iran, but in Venezuela, how they refuse to act on that war powers resolution. And it is just continually being subservient to the executive branch, continually being subservient to their donors and AIPAC especially.
Been dragged, like you can literally see the finger line marks in the ground that they've been dragged. They reportedly were attempting to undermine the war powers resolution by Massey and Ro Khanna so that it wouldn't get a vote before the attack. They succeeded at that. They were very reluctant to vote for it. Hakeem Jeffries does not seem to have whipped that vote, because 4 Democrats defected and voted with Republicans to defeat that war powers resolution.
This is why Hakeem Jeffries should have been primaried. Zoran discouraging Chiose from primarying Hakeem Jeffries was a mistake. I'm going to be honest about that, because I think that Chiose had a decent chance against Hakeem Jeffries. Even though Hakeem Jeffries is very popular in his district, he's not popular with everyone. He's popular with the rich people, which is how he's been able to stay in power. But I think it really underestimated his abilities as a candidate, and it has been pretty devastating for the American people and the world at large that he is still acting and not feeling any sort of public pressure against what's happening. He's just acting with impunity along with Chuck Schumer because they are AIPAC puppets.
Schumer has been hinting for a while that he's open to funding the war, which now we realize is spending literally billions upon billions a week right now. And there seems to be, at the very least, a massive missed opportunity for Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of the Democratic Party to get out in front and say, this is a huge mistake, be unequivocal about it, because as a political matter, never mind all the reasons why you wouldn't want to start a war there, but it simply as a political matter, it seems like the most obvious thing to do.
Which, to be fair, and the conversation I had with Ben Rhodes and I had with others this week, and I just want to be clear, the Democratic Party leadership is what's screwed up here. A lot of Democrats do get it, right? You notice that the presidential candidates quickly switched on this. Gavin Newsom, who is a mainstream pro-Israel Democrat, came out very strongly against the war and came out very strongly calling out Israel's role and Netanyahu's role because he knows, he's seen the numbers. He understands what's going on here. Just to be clear to your viewers, the poll we did on Wednesday that I mentioned earlier this week with Data for Progress and
Hello.
the approval rating for this war
How are you doing?
with Democrats is 6%. 6% of Democrats approve of this war, an insanely small number compared to any previous conflict, even compared to Gaza. I think it's even smaller than the number of people who approve of what Israel's doing in Gaza. So 6%, they're seeing those numbers.
Thank you.
You're seeing Ruben Gallego very strongly come out against this war and against Israel. Brian Schatz, I mentioned. Chris Murphy's been very critical. A lot of senators are coming up and just taking shots. Mark Warner, centrists, hawkish senator from Virginia, very critical of this war.
You and Melissa
it's
been
Schumer
together?
and Jeffries, as ever, letting the side down. Just even when they do criticize it, it's so half-hearted. It's so not real. It's so process-driven. Why have you not explained to us or taken a vote? Ben made a good point. Ben Rhodes made a good point that when they did the nuclear deal, when Obama did the nuclear deal, he used to have to try and lobby Democrats in Congress to get behind it. And they would send statements to him saying, we're going to put out a statement in favor of the deal. And he would read the statement, and the first 3 to 4 paragraphs would just be condemnation of Iran and how much they hate Iran. And he would get to the bottom and he'd be like, is this in favor of the deal?
No
or
way.
what?
That's
This
so
constant,
fun.
throat clearing from Democrats
It'll
that
be
you
our
can't
summer.
say anything unless you first say, Iran's evil. Of course, we want to get rid of the Ayatollah. Of course, we want to.
That was a
but
time
they
for
didn't get a vote in Congress.
weddings,
Well, that
apparently.
dilutes your message. You just need to have a clearer message, which is this war is wrong. It's illegal. It's a distraction from Epstein. It's a disaster for U.S. national security. We shouldn't be giving Benjamin Netanyahu a blank check. That's all you have to say.
But
they can't
if
do
it's
it.
just the politics, that is exactly the right thing to do. But here's where I think
want this war.
we're at a critical point because Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are both from New York City. Why is that the case? As they were talking about how Zohran Mamdani's victory should not be seen as a broader momentum shift in politics. Why are they the leaders of the Democrats in the House and the Senate? Because they're close to fundraising. So if we're talking about this as a strictly political matter, we're all right here. It would be obvious what the position would be. It would have been obvious for Kamala Harris to distance herself from Biden and the genocide and all of that. This is a major problem when we're at a point in this country where the special interests and dark money since Citizens United have exploded, and it's at a critical mass where they have so effectively neutered the opposition and made these politicians who don't really have political talents outside of fundraising, their careers are chained to the idea that they need to be big money fundraisers, and they don't have the ability to they don't have the dexterity because of the incentive structure that created them in the first place.
Yes.
And if anyone listens to you and Jonathan Greenmount jumps in and says, Emma Vigeland's being anti-Semitic by saying it's special interest, I would point them to the New York Times, which reported on how Schumer was not endorsing Mamdani because he was worried about pro-Israel donors. That was reporting from the Times, that famous anti-Semitic rag sheet that reported on Schumer's motivations. Although I would add, maybe with Jeffries, obviously Jeffries very much a creature of special interest. We saw him run to Silicon Valley after the election when Democrats were calling out the tech bosses. But Schumer really is a true believer. Let's not forget. I mean, Schumer was a rare Democrat who opposed the JCPOA, right?
And then wanted no side deals, no taco Trump.
Oh yeah, he did the taco
yeah.
Trump video. He was pushing Trump from the right on
Yes.
Iran negotiations. If you go back further, he spoke, I think, at AIPAC. It was one of these conferences where he said, "Hey, you can't blame Palestinians because the Bible gave the land to us." Like, he's on record talking in messianic, scriptural, theological terms about this conflict. He has a long record as a hawk on Iraq and Iran. So he's a true believer. I think deep down, he's happy that this war is happening. He's happy that it's going
100%.
ahead. And he has to go through the motions of saying, well, I oppose Trump.
I think this is a really important point. I think Hakeem Jeffries is clearly it's a question of donors, but Chuck Schumer has made it absolutely explicitly clear where he stands on this. I think he but for the constraints of his entire party being against this, he
and
would be out
Trump
there
doing it, and it being Trump doing it.
He would be out there right now. He would be out there right now criticizing Trump from the right.
Yes.
Were it not, if the polling wasn't what it was, he would be out there criticizing Trump from the right, saying you botched this.
Absolutely.
You
Where are
need
the
to go
ground
in
troops?
harder.
Where are the ground
where are
troops?
the ground troops?
By the way, there are ground troops heading to the region, very worrying today we've seen.
Yes.
We mentioned that, and absolutely the case. And frankly,
This is what people were warning about. This is what people have been warning about, that when Trump got back into power, that he would probably be starting nuclear wars, world wars. And that's why it's so disappointing that Kamala Harris really was bought and sold by the war complex and AIPAC, and capitulated to the genocide, did not come out and distance herself from Biden, did not come out and try to sway him from these genocidal tactics while he was in power. That is just so utterly devastating for the world that that didn't happen. She really was set up to have a great campaign and had momentum, and it wasn't a sacrifice to not take billionaires on the campaign trail and Liz Cheney. That there is this capitulation continually to the fascist powers that be that have led us here. And the so-called leaders that we've had in elected office have failed us over and over again, which is why watching this is just like making me mad. But also, which is why it's important to continue to remember that we have to take our power back through organizing, community organizing, unionizing, through strikes and protests, that we have to use the tools that are available to us to resist. Otherwise, things will continue as they are. It's only us that's going to stop this from happening, because the powers that be are bent on this warmongering imperialist violence.
Chuck Schumer, by all accounts, the rumors are that he is planning not to run for re-election in 2028. And if that's the case, he is this is his. I think to a certain extent, what Netanyahu's doing.
Why would he even be considering that in the first place? Why is that even an option?
Quickly,
we need to have age
but I need to get
limits.
your takes because I'm not a New Yorker. But I got shouted at by Ross Barkan on Twitter the other day when I said this. But if he's not running, shouldn't Zoran run for the Senate in 28?
I think Zoran is too much of a good guy believer where he wants to truly see his entire first term through. I just think he's not going to. I think Gillibrand's seat in 2030.
Although Zoran would be much better in the Senate than Chuck Schumer. Yeah, Schumer isn't running again. I don't think so. Apparently, from what they're saying, this is something that I haven't known about. Yeah, Jesus Christ. He's 75 years old. You know what? We could fall into these ageist arguments and say that, like, old people shouldn't be in power. But honestly, when it comes to the geriocracy that we are in, it's really concerning how so many of these people are dying in office. They are staying in office way beyond the years than people are in the workforce. Chugging his crypt keeper. I know, exactly. He is a crypt keeper. Zoran for Supreme Leader. We need to change the Constitution, I think, so that he can run for president eventually. Wouldn't that be nice? If we're able to have elections for the midterms in November, that will be great. If they're not completely rigged by the fascist regime and we're able to get more progressive people in power, that may be a possibility. We shall see. Yeah, he has been in power so long. Look. The dismal legacy of Chuck Schumer. Yeah, I'd say so. Genocidal freak.
Something
Okay.
that could be discussed. But I also think Pat Ryan is angling for it.
Okay.
I think we really want to.
Geriatric. I
mean,
said geriocracy, and I think how you spelled it,
New York
geriatric.
City, to the
Geriatric.
broader movement can't be overstated.
That's a good
I
point.
mean, this is, to have an executive.
Yeah, you know what I was trying to say at least.
And turning.
We'll workshop the
fundamentally
spelling,
reorienting
pronunciation.
in New York City, I think is like the implications of doing that well are huge.
you're right.
Me too. But yeah, that's it would be helpful to.
Okay, there is a word, gerontocracy. We were looking it up at the exact same time. You beat me to it. Gerontocracy. Geriocracy. That just sounds like it's run by Jerry's. Just everyone is named Jerry in the government. Yeah, gerontocracy. Thank you. We got there eventually. Teamwork.
Senators from a blue state who actually, a very safe blue state, actually represent.
Yeah, and you've got, and by the way, you've got John
Chuck
Ossoff.
Schumer is to the
You've got
right
John
of
Ossoff.
Republicans on this.
But you've got John Ossoff in a swing state being attacked by Jewish groups. He's Jewish himself, taking much stronger stances, not as strong as I would like, on Gaza or Iran than Schumer did. You've got Ruben Gallego,
Jerry from Parks
who kind
and
of
Rec.
spent the last 2 years making himself very
Yeah,
centrist,
we would be better
very
off.
border hawkish. He's come out very strongly in recent months against ICE and against Israel. Again, smart guy. He looks at the polling. He's got smart people around him like Rebecca Katz. He's seen the polling.
Yep, I agree. Well, Maddie, what else do we have to say about this week? I'm not sure what there is. I mean,
I think it's only going to get worse. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings, but it's judging from Hegseth's press conference today, it's only going to get worse. We're led by people who are super thin-skinned, who treat everything like a video game, who aren't going to be able to stand. I don't know if you saw that clip where Hegseth says they're rats hiding underground, and then you've got Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, wandering around the streets of Tehran with no security, Zelensky style in Ukraine. That's going to bother the hell out of Trump and Hegseth. The danger is, and I kept telling this to people, I would have people tell me in 2024, and I'm sure they told you, that look, Trump's anti-war, and Bush and Cheney, look at Liz Cheney, these warmongers. And I would often point out, I don't want to defend Bush and Cheney. I don't want to defend the administration of Rumsfeld. But whatever you think about Rumsfeld, Cheney, they were grown-ups. They were grown-up warmongers. We have childish warmongers, the kind of people who will nuke the place if they think they've been disrespected enough or they think they've been embarrassed enough. That is the worry I have. People like Peter Hegseth, Donald Trump.
Same. This is exactly the kind of worry that I have as well. Of that, like, it won't take much provocation to nuke places. It's very concerning. I want to see Abu Ghazala win her district so bad. I know. And I think one of the things that's really good that's come out recently that mainstream media is actually reporting on is that there is all of this AIPAC money going to support influencers to like trash her, whatever. And it's actually being picked up by these mainstream outlets, and they're describing it as dark money because they are starting to see some of the writing on the wall by the polling and seeing how unpopular this war is and how unpopular AIPAC is specifically. But I think she has a really good chance, especially with this boost in the media. We saw that it happened with James Tallarico, where there were these conservative attempts to make it so that the Stephen Colbert interview with James Tallarico didn't come out, that CBS did that. And now AIPAC paying influencers to make anti-cat ads. It is what is the word? It isn't working. It's bouncing back against them. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It's a simple one too. And this is really good to see, that when there is this large public pressure against what's happening, these media outlets can't stay away from it for too long. That we are seeing some of the tide change with reporting on Israel and Gaza, not fast enough and not to the extent that we need it, but there's a reason why Larry Ellison and all of these dumb billionaires are buying up, who are fascist and white supremacist and Zionist, that they are buying up all these media outlets because they can't deny that they need to start reporting on things more. Mehdi has the best takes, I know. The AIPAC bullshit might actually end up helping her. I think so too. I think she has a really great chance. And she's just an excellent candidate. I don't know much about foreign policy. I've heard her foreign policy takes are not that great outside of Palestinian rights and Israel's aggression, but also as an American who was educated in America, I'm horribly uneducated about foreign policy. So I'm guessing she might be in the same boat. Hopefully with time, we will all be more educated, ? It's crazy that they don't understand that the best tactic is to not give it any attention. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it really is making them look stupid and cruel. I mean, she's 26 or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like, even if she doesn't get it, which I think she will be the nominee. It really goes to show that, like, we need more young people, that, like, she has some really great policies, especially when it comes to domestic policy, that can help us move to a more progressive state in the country. And this is what the fascist regime is terrified of. That we'll get more people like that, a whole quantity of people in Congress where they will actually want to do something about the poor material conditions that people are experiencing, which will require more regulations and putting a leash on corporate greed.
Running this war.
Without a doubt. I mean, the only saving grace, I think, is that Trump reacts to the stock market and to the economy. I mean, to a certain extent. And
if he knows about it, he's being told by his people that it's great. He's in a bubble.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. I think it's just a question of, like, if somebody from his New York swinging days gets through on the phone and says, this is really bad.
Yes,
and
I could see him trying to reverse. But the problem is, and I know you know this, is Iran is going to dictate the pace of this, and they are going to.
This is what happens with dictators, is that when they have these yes people around them who are spinning narratives, who have their own interests in controlling the dictator and controlling the narrative as well, that they're just in this fantasy world where it really is a state of psychosis for these dictators and the people that are around them, that they are not existing in reality. And this is so dangerous, especially someone who already is experiencing dementia, who already is narcissistic and abusive and cruel and bent on world domination and is extremely immature and dumb, that it's like this horrible combination of things of like, this is why we shouldn't have fascists in charge of the nation with the most powerful military on earth. It's really frightening, which is why we need a national strike that is consistent and concerted, and we also need a world strike, which I will get into after this.
Require the world economy to experience a significant amount of pain so that
it could reestablish deterrence. Yeah,
that's it. And
one more point on this, I just think it's when you bring up Hegseth and him calling them rats, I still think that it's not discussed enough how Pete Hegseth's career was centered around defending war criminals and saying that they shouldn't be charged for killing people in Iraq, and he has a Crusades tattoo, and I think there's been some reporting about the bombing of that
he has an
girls'
Iron
school
Cross
and
tattoo,
how,
and his tattoos are fucking ugly. They're ugly just because they're fascist and white supremacist, duh. But they look so bad. Like, it's so ugly to be fascist. It's so ugly to, like, have no empathy. And it makes the art so ugly. Like, that alone should be a deterrent of, like, you aren't going to look like shit all the time. Like, you lessen your chances of looking like shit and therefore being a shit person if you are not fascist and subscribe to these ideals and also these aesthetics. Because eugenics and sameness really is such disgusting ugliness that we need to call it out for what it is. Plus, diversity is good if we're talking about genes. Diversity is good for a gene pool. Interesting.
just use Google Maps, you would have known it was a girls' school, but they used 10-year-old
Had bright paint on the walls.
intel. But I would not put it past a guy like Hegseth to get off on it.
He said today, Emma, he said today, no quarter, no mercy, which of course is a war crime. It's a violation of international law to use that language. Same language that Tom Cotton famously used in his New York Times op-ed.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of these people need to be tried at the Hague.
On the war crimes note, let's wrap up.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to have a world strike and a national strike to have our own Nuremberg trials for the genocides that are happening, to hold people accountable, and to hold the fascist Americans accountable.
We will, of course, link to Zateo.
Thank you so much.
Again, I've told you this before, but doing great work over there. It is amazing what you've been able to build now in what, like 2 or 3 years has it been?
Yeah.
No, second birthday is in April. We'll be inviting you guys. Look out for an invite.
They truly have such a talented team at Zateo, hard workers, extremely smart people. They have built out this whole infrastructure of independent media where they have blogs, they have content on YouTube that comes out consistently. They have their own site with their gated content, but they make a lot of information available so that people can still be educated and get news, and then they provide extra things that are behind a paywall. And it is just a way freer system of getting news, actual news.
Second birthday.
That's honestly nuts.
Yeah,
because
it's
you've
so cool.
managed to create an institution that is so important in this time. Really appreciate it. I can't believe it's only been 2 years. That's amazing.
Thanks,
Mehdi
guys.
Hasan.
Appreciate you. Thanks for
Mehdi.
leading the way.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And
Thanks for leading the way. Look at all this camaraderie. This camaraderie. Heartwarming end to such horrible retelling of events. I mean, I'm glad we got the news from them, though, because that was a really great group to be analyzing what's happening right now. Going to A general strike. I'll share my screen. This is for the US, a national strike. This is an image from Minneapolis. Right now, there are 445,374 strike cards that have been signed, and we need over 10.5 million still. So, if you have not signed a strike card and you are in the US, I highly encourage you to. I just dropped the link to that in the chat. It's also in the Twitch profile, as well as the World Strike form that I created that I will be updating this week with information. Still sign it, submit your demands to show that we are willing to strike to stop all of this bullshit happening in the world and hold people accountable. This is, no, you're good. This is the website for the General Strike US, so a national strike to get demands met. The General Strike US has existed for a while. I think it was after the overturning of Roe v. Wade that they were created. I guess we could look it up. The General Strike is a decentralized network of regular people who know our greatest power is our labor and our constitutional right to refuse it. We aim to unite every person and organization fighting for racial, economic, and environmental justice so that together we can see real change in our lifetimes. We are not one singular organization. We are a network of regular people united by our shared values, committed to a general strike to radically change our country. Yeah, so these are, oh, this was the origin story. Yep. 2 friends living in New York City made this website after Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022 because of the Dobbs decision, and the conservative majority that was even got into that place because of the Heritage Foundation and Peter Thiel playing the long game. These fascists have been at it for a long time, and their resources and imagination is seemingly endless, which is why we need to fight back with our own resources and endless revolutionary optimism and action. But the concept of a general strike dates back centuries. The General Strike is a decentralized network of people and organizations committing to striking once we reach 3.5% of the US population, or 11 million people. We don't have a traditional leader or hierarchical structure, and no one gets paid to do this work. Instead, we have an ever-shifting network of organizers, all building towards the general strike in their own ways. Check out our values for more info and join us. So they have frequently asked questions that you can check out. There is a strike card that you can sign. This is what they are wanting people to submit to have your number be counted towards that 3.5% of people willing to strike. They also have information on how data will be used, which I think how they've gone about this is very ethical. They are giving you informed consent, which I appreciate. The partners that they're working with. Demands. You can also submit demands if you would like. So here is a list of some things that people have submitted so far. Specific demands will come from leaders and experts of existing fights for racial, economic, gender, and environmental justice once we have reached 6 million strike cards. Stay tuned for updates and submit your input below in the meantime. The broad list includes, but is not limited to, affordable housing, abolishing ICE, climate action, constitutional convention, because we need to revamp the Constitution, criminal justice reform. Yeah, if we're able to do a strike and allow the Constitution for people who are not born in the US to run for president, that would be amazing, among all of these other things. Criminal justice reform, disability rights, end military aid for occupations and/or ethnic cleansing, gun safety, immigration reform, indigenous rights, labor rights and living wages, LGBTQIA+ rights, paid family and medical leave, racial justice, repeal Citizens United, repeal right to work laws, reproductive rights, student debt reform, tax the rich, universal health care, voting rights, welfare, and child support reform. So the thing that is really important about this whole process is that even though it is in the long haul, that we're in this for the long haul to get the amount of numbers that we need before we strike, is that once we get the amount of people that we need and don't work until these demands are met, imagine what kind of world that would be. How that would change the nation if all of these demands were met. And it takes a collective, a lot of people who are in one voice saying that we don't accept what's happening. It's not only that, which I think many strikes focus on, of like, it's not just expressing outrage and discontent. It's about asking for things to remedy the situation so that we aren't just withholding our labor to punish them. We're withholding our labor to get the things that are owed to us, our human dignity and our human rights that are owed to us. Okay, so there's this calendar. I guess they do some education. And you can donate. They also have partners. Oh, they're new. Black Panther Party of Washington State. That's very cool. Yeah, these are some examples. Very cool. Okay. And then the same thing goes for a world strike as well. When we are able to organize and speak with one voice, it's not just punishing, because they do need to be punished, let's be honest. The powers that be, when it comes to a world strike with these global billionaires, the global Epstein class that control everything and make everyone suffer because they are exploiting us and wringing us dry and using us as cannon fodder, that we can remedy these situations in the world if we organize around it and have direct asks for it. So, like talking about AI centers and climate change and not poisoning the earth and not having hunger and not clean water for people. It's like, these are things that we can ask for, and we should be asking for it. But they have made us feel like we are powerless. And in many ways, they have disempowered us by disenfranchising people so that they are not able to vote and making it so that people don't have representation in their governments. And we need to say at some point that we've had enough. And we need to have like the trust in one another and the imagination to hope for a world that doesn't look like this one, where we're all expendable. That's some cool shit. Yeah, it's like, I mean, talking about like striking and stuff can be intimidating for some people, or even like some boring for some people, which is fair. But also, this is one of the tried and true ways that people actually get their needs met. This is the reason why we actually have a weekend. Workers have a weekend, is because of strikes, that there is an 8-day work day for many sectors. That is because of unionizing and striking. Like, really, any sort of worker reforms, worker protections, it has not been because they haven't come about because they've been granted to us by the powers that be, by representatives. It has been demanded by people striking. Okay. So there are these headlines that I want to watch, and then we can get into some of the Oscars of it all. Oh, what did I say? So 8 hour workday. Did I say 8 day workday or something? Like 8 minute? That would be nice. Okay. Oh, 8 day workday. Thank you for catching that. Who is Oscar and why did he get an award show? Exactly. I don't know the origins of the Oscars. Who is he, though?
Welcome to Democracy Now!,
Who gave him this power?
democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Narmeen Sheikh. The U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has now entered its third week. On Friday, President Trump ordered strikes on military installations on Iran's Kharg Island, which handles 90% of the country's crude oil exports. In a phone call with NBC News journalist Kristen Welker on Saturday, President Trump said U.S. strikes had, quote, totally demolished much of the island and warned of more, saying, quote, we may hit it a few more times just for fun. President Trump also claimed that Iran wanted a ceasefire, which Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi flatly denied.
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes, and this is what we have done so far, and we continue to do that until President Trump comes to the point that this is an illegal war with no victory.
Reuters reports that President Trump has ignored attempts by allies in the Middle East to start negotiations
misinformation,
aimed at ending the Iran war.
Warning,
Over the weekend,
lies,
US
blasphemes are exiting my mouth sometimes.
Cities such as Tehran, Hamadan, and Isfahan. Iranian media says that a U.S.-Israeli strike killed 15 people at a factory in Isfahan. Iran's Cultural Heritage and Tourism Ministry said Saturday that at least 56 museums and historic sites have been damaged. At least 1,348 civilians in Iran have been killed since the start of the war, according to Iran's UN ambassador. Meanwhile, Iran's police chief says that the country has arrested 500 people accused of sharing information with enemies. This is Mohammad Tahiri, whose home was damaged in a U.S.-Israeli strike.
It's a terrible incident, very bitter. Many people have been killed and so many have lost their homes and lives. However, because of that heroic spirit that has arisen among all the people of Iran, it is now bearable. That is, that sense of resistance within us has grown, strengthened, and matured. For that reason, we're trying to get through these days, and God willing, we will rebuild everything better from the start, just as we are rebuilding our country and moving closer to our ideals.
Iran continued to launch retaliatory strikes at Israel as Iranian rumors spread that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was killed in an Iranian strike. In response, Netanyahu posted a video.
Yeah, this is the AI bullshit that we've been seeing over the weekend, is that people aren't sure if Netanyahu's dead or alive, that his proof of life video looked like AI, that it showed a date from like 2024 in this like little coffee video that he filmed. So who knows what's going on. And this is the danger about living in a world with AI, is that it's like it was already hard for people to tell what reality is in this media ecosystem. This is only going to be getting worse.
Of himself getting coffee and chatting with an aide in Jerusalem on Sunday. Over the weekend, Iran launched multiple ballistic missiles at Israel carrying cluster bombs, injuring at least 8 people across the country. In Iraq, 6 U.S. service members were killed when their military refueling plane crashed while taking part in Iran war operations last week. Overall, 12 U.S. service members have been killed since the Iran war began on February 28th. Another service member died of a medical issue. This comes as the U.S. State Department issued a warning telling U.S. citizens to leave Iraq immediately. Meanwhile, Italy's military said on Sunday there had been a drone attack on the Ali al Salem airbase in Kuwait, hosting Italian and U.S. forces. This comes as Iran continues to attack infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates, urging people to evacuate 3 major ports. Iranian state media claimed, without evidence, that U.S. forces are located in the civilian ports of Jebel Ali, Khalifa, and Fujairah in the UAE. Authorities in the UAE say a drone attack sparked a fire near the Bay airport, while another drone attack has also been reported at Fujairah's industrial area. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has warned major U.S. corporations in the region to evacuate. President Trump is calling for a coalition of countries to send warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz, which is responsible for 20% of the world's oil supply. Japan and Australia said they were not planning on sending naval vessels to escort ships through the strait. This comes as Brent crude oil is trading near $105 a barrel today. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of gas in the U.S. has hit $3.70, up from $3.45 a week ago and $2.93 a month ago. Meanwhile, U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said on Sunday that there were, quote, no guarantees that oil prices would fall soon. Newt Gingrich, the former Republican House Speaker,
of course not.
urged the U.S. to conduct, quote,
Of
a
course
dozen
not.
thermonuclear detonations to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Israel says its troops have begun ground operations in southern Lebanon. This comes as the World Health Organization says it has verified that 12 doctors, paramedics, and nurses were killed in an Israeli strike on a healthcare center in southern Lebanon on Friday. According to the Lebanese Health Ministry, Israeli attacks have killed at least 850 people, including 107 children. Nearly 1 million people have been forced to flee their homes, according to the UN. This is Furhat Othman, who fled southern Lebanon to Saida, just south of Beirut.
I swear, I came from the south, from the district of Tyre. The situation is just as you can see. Sometimes the tent gets blown away by the wind, sometimes there is rain, sometimes water. The blankets are soaked with water. As they say, even the rugs are full of water. Everything is wet, as you can see. We have a cold from the wind, and we are waiting for God's mercy.
FCC Chair Brenton Carr is threatening to revoke broadcasters' licenses over their coverage of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Carr shared a Truth Social post by President Trump in which he criticized U.S. media coverage of the Iran war, writing on X, quote, broadcasters that are running hoaxes and news distortions, also known as the fake news, have a chance now to correct course before their license renewals come up. The law is clear. Broadcasters must operate in the public interest, and they will lose their licenses if they do not. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut.
That's so fascistic. Be like, if you report the actual news, you will have your license revoked. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, we're supposed to trust your version of reality. We're supposed to trust you as the authority on this. I don't think so.
Blasted Carr, saying, quote, this is the federal government telling news stations to provide favorable coverage of the war or their licenses will be pulled. A truly extraordinary moment. We aren't on the verge of a totalitarian takeover. We are in the middle of it. Israel continues to violate the U.S.-brokered so-called ceasefire in Gaza, killing 12 people, including 2 children and a pregnant woman, on Sunday. Since the ceasefire deal last October, Israeli forces have killed more than 650 Palestinians, according to Gaza health officials. Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces killed a Palestinian father, mother, and 2 of their children in their car on Sunday. 37-year-old Ali Khaled Bani Odeh and his wife Wad and 2 of their children, Mohammed and Othman, were each shot in the head in the village of Tamun. 2 other children managed to survive. This is one of them recounting how Israeli soldiers attacked his family.
Just all this senseless, needless, devastating death. This alone should be why we want to and need to stop the world's production and withhold our labor to end this. Not only in Palestine, but in Sudan, in the Congo.
We were leaving Nablus from Al Nublasi restaurant. All of a sudden, we came under direct fire. We didn't know the source. Everyone in the car was martyred, except for my brother Mustafa and me. A soldier came and pulled me out of the car. They started beating me. They pulled out my brother Mustafa. They tried to beat him, but I stood in front of them. They pushed me to the ground and started beating me on the back with their boots. The Israeli soldiers started to say, "We killed dogs."
In the Netherlands, authorities are denouncing what they described as anti-Semitic attacks on two Jewish institutions this weekend. The mayor of Amsterdam said an overnight blast Saturday damaged the outside of a Jewish school in a, quote, targeted attack against the Jewish community. The day before, 4 teenagers were taken into police custody, accused of starting a fire at a synagogue in Rotterdam. No one has been arrested for the attack in Amsterdam.
And because all of this aggression, this genocidal aggression by the Israeli government is going unchecked, because world leaders are refusing to call it what it is and separate the Zionist genocidal project from Judaism and Jewish people, it is leading to more anti-Semitism and violence against Jewish people.
Venezuela, the Trump administration has reopened the U.S. embassy in the capital Caracas for the first time since 2019. The U.S. flag was raised over the embassy Saturday as Trump has touted the resumption of diplomatic relations with Venezuela after a deadly U.S. military strike led to the abduction of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores in early January. Venezuela's interim government, led by Delcy Rodriguez, has agreed to several of Trump's demands, including granting the U.S. access to Venezuela's vast oil reserves and other natural resources. In Cuba, protesters reportedly torched a local Communist Party office in the city of Moron as people express a growing frustration over food shortages and massive blackouts across the island. A U.S. oil blockade has cut off Cuba from accessing desperately needed fuel as the Trump administration intensifies pressure to topple the Cuban government.
Yeah, it's not the Cuban government that is starving the people. It is the U.S. government that is doing this because of the sanctions that were put on.
Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel said Friday he had held talks with U.S. officials, stating Cuba had not received oil shipments in at least 3 months. The island had already been devastated by decades of U.S. sanctions. Advocates are demanding an investigation after the mysterious death of a Haitian asylum seeker who was found unresponsive at a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania bus shelter days after being released from jail and placed under ICE supervision. The Haitian Bridge Alliance says 31-year-old Daffy Michel had reportedly been jailed for months and was released after a judge dismissed misdemeanor charges against her. Michel was processed into ICE's so-called Alternatives to Detention program and fitted with an electronic ankle monitor shortly before her death, according to the Haitian Bridge Alliance. Ahead of her time in jail, Michel had reportedly been experiencing mental health episodes. This comes as an Afghan asylum seeker died in ICE custody this weekend, less than 24 hours after being detained in Texas. According to the veteran-led advocacy group Afghan EVAC, Mohammad Nazir Patkiwal worked alongside U.S. Special Forces in Afghanistan during the U.S. invasion. He was reportedly arrested Friday outside his home as he got ready to drop off his children at school. Paktiawal lived with his wife and 6 children in Dallas. He's at least the 12th immigrant to die in ICE custody since the beginning of the year. In Texas, a federal jury on Friday convicted
the rates of these deaths that are happening in detainment in these concentration camps that people have been kidnapped and trafficked to are increasing as time goes on. The number of people who are suffering, like, this is a natural consequence of the fascist violence that is happening with ICE and these quotas that are being imposed on them, and how there is just complete disregard for human life and human dignity. Like, this is the end goal of these tactics. and it has to stop. This is another huge reason why we need to halt all production in the United States of America to put an end to this completely senseless, cruel violence.
Anti-ICE protesters on terrorism charges in a closely watched trial that raised fears over the Trump administration's intensifying crackdown on activists and First Amendment rights. This marked the first time terrorism charges were successfully brought against activists by the Justice Department as federal prosecutors accused the protesters of being members of Antifa. The trial focused on a reported shooting that happened during a protest outside the Prairieland ICE jail in Alvarado last year. The coalition DFW support committee said, quote, "This is a sham trial built on political persecution and ideological attacks coming from the top." In more related news, an immigration judge on Friday ordered the release of Palestinian activist Licha Kordia, who's been detained by ICE for over a year. This was Kordia's third bond hearing, with Trump officials repeatedly refusing to release her from custody. To see our coverage of her case, go to democracynow.org.
Yeah, I'm glad they're talking about her being in ICE custody, trafficked by ICE, because she has been in these conditions for over a year.
Were held in Los Angeles Sunday, where Sinners made history, with Autumn Durald Arkapaw becoming the first woman to win in the Best Cinematography category. Michael B. Jordan took home the Oscar for Best Actor for his portrayal of twin brothers Smoke and Stack, while the film's director, Ryan Coogler, won for Best Original Screenplay. Mr. Nobody Against Putin won for Best Documentary Feature. Meanwhile, actor and presenter Javier Bardem called for a free Palestine on stage.
No to war and free Palestine.
The Palestinian actor Motaz Malhis, who had a starring role in the Oscar-nominated foreign film The Voice...
That's what needs to happen more. Celebrities are cowards. It's a class thing.
In Rajab, was unable to attend the ceremony after his U.S. visa was denied. He said on Instagram, quote, "I am not allowed to enter the United States because of my Palestinian citizenship." To see our coverage of many of these films, please go to our website. We'll have more on the Academy Awards later in the broadcast. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Nermeen Sheikh in New York.
And I'm Amy Goodman in Los Angeles, where I attended the Oscars last night. I had a chance recently to speak with the winners of the Documentary Feature Award, Mr. Nobody Against Putin, and we'll play that later. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on
I'm interested in
notifications.
seeing that. Mr. Nobody Against Putin. Okay. Shall we get into the fashions? Let's look at these looks. So, one battle after another. That one won Best Picture, which I disagree with. We had Jessie Buckley win. Well, I guess we can look at the winners who won what before we get into that. Actor in a leading role, I think that was deserved. He made these two twin brothers in Sinners feel distinct. The thing that I don't understand about Sinners is that why was there so much support for this movie and not for The Color Purple when it came out, when it is also like largely based around like in this same time period around a juke joint, talking about oppression? And is it mostly because it is female based? Is it because it is more Christian centric? Is it because it has some queerness in it? Queer femme, black women? Is that a factor? This may be an ignorant question or take, but I just wish the color purple got noticed a little bit more. I realize many people did not like it that much, and I'm very curious as to why, like what people's thoughts are on this. Okay, so Michael B. Jordan won actor in a leading role. The fact that we have these different categories that are gendered is idiotic, in my opinion. This is a future of patriarchy and defining male and female, because if we had just best actor in a leading role, that means that a woman could win over a man. A baby could win over a man. Oh no. Okay. So, luckily, Timothée did not win. Marty Supreme, I'm not going to see this. I will never see this movie, I'm guessing, because it looks deeply uninteresting to me. I don't give a fuck about ping pong. Sorry. It doesn't look like Timmy did that great of a job in it anyway. It's honestly shocking that Leonardo is not picked for this, but I'm glad that he wasn't. Actor in a supporting role, Sean Penn won Battle After Another. I think Jacob Elordi did a good job in Frankenstein. He did better than I was expecting him to, actually. Delroy Lindo did an excellent job in Sinners, though. I think he should have won. What's your beef with Timmy Boy? he just is very irritating to me for many reasons. I don't think he's that great of an actor, and he gets like a lot of roles. But also recently, throughout like his whole like kind of Oscar press tour, because that's kind of what is expected of people, but he was like really campaigning for this Oscar, so that was annoying. He said in an interview with Matthew McConaughey that he doesn't want film to be a dying art form that people don't see anymore or support anymore, like opera and ballet. And I, on principle, very much disagree with that. I understand what he's saying in the way of like, oh, the role of film is becoming a thing of the past. And I think it already kind of is. So to claim that like film isn't, but ballet and opera are, when there is like a lot of consistent support for ballet and opera, it's like they're deeply classist art forms. So like we need to call that out immediately. They've been used to like justify like a lot of bigotry in these art forms. But he also is greatly misunderstanding the moment if he thinks that film already isn't dying because it's being bought by all of these streaming services, that there isn't really a whole lot of like artistic risks that people are allowed to take, like with directors and screenwriters and such. And that he just like unnecessarily threw like opera and ballet under the bus. And so it's like it is about talking about like the role of film, but I think like instead of him coming out and being like people need to support film, like cinema more, like going to theaters more, it's like, which I love that. I think that can and should be more of a thing of people going to the theater more. But it also is like completely ignoring the fact that people already don't feel like they can go to the theater as much, and that the quality of films that are being made have not eroded over time, and like their revolutionary type of messaging and artistic risks because of the capitalist class having complete control over this. I think Marty Supreme looks kind of cool. I don't get the Timmy hate though. Yeah. He just annoys me. He always has, and I have maintained this, and people are like, he's so cute or whatever, and I'm like, he owes his femboy, like skinny white boy look to all male dancers in my opinion. He wouldn't have a career if those people were not existing before him, which he did do like ballet for a while, but also like for young men, they just need young boys in these productions. They don't need a whole lot of talent. I'm going to be honest with you. Not to say that there aren't some that are very talented, but I've seen him dance. So I just think he's out of his depth. That's my soapbox. Hey, Jessie Buckley won for Hamnet. I think that was very deserved. I watched that If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You movie. It was so stressful. It was kind of a commentary on when people are forced into motherhood. It was kind of ableist, but it was very stressful and was marketed as a drama and a comedy, and there was nothing comedic about it, I have to say. Amy Madigan won for Weapons. Wunmi Mosaku. I think she did a really great job in it. Tiana Taylor is a great actress, but One Battle After Another was not my favorite. Okay, Pop Demon Hunters won animated feature. Animated short film, The Girl Who Cried Pearls. I haven't heard of that. One Battle After Another won for casting. Okay. I think they had really great casting in Sinners, except for what's her face? Haley Steinfeld. She kind of annoys me too. Oh yeah, cinematography. Sinners won. Frankenstein won costume design. The costumes were really stunning. I think Ryan Coogler should have won for Best Director. Although Chloe Zhao did an excellent job with Hamnet, I have to say. Is it just the same, like, 7 movies that are nominated? Essentially. This is kind of what happens every year. Is like, it's usually a few films and their representatives for each category. It's a very incestuous thing, which is why it's important to call out how political it all is and like deeply capitalist it all is. People voting for the Oscars, like in the Academy, it is predominantly like white straight men, so keeping that in mind. Okay, doing a quick overview of the fashions. I thought I'd have more time today, and I was pausing things too often. Anyway, this look is stunning. Tiana Taylor always looks good. She always knows how to turn a look. Michael B. Jordan. It's very clean cut. It's a nice suit. It's like a mandarin collar. Almost looks Indian. Kate Hudson. I don't particularly care for this. Just kind of basic. He just is so douchey. He's grown up with so much privilege that he's just like out of touch. And I don't care. Like, he and Kylie Jenner represent this white old money, like kind of like symbols of white culture where they get elevated to these spaces they don't necessarily like have the talent to be in. That's my opinion. Emma Stone's like an empire waist. She is the body type to pull that off. I like this. This dress is pretty. I think that cut is also nice on Rose Byrne. Elle Fanning looks like those animated characters on Kleenex commercials. She always looks like she just like walked in from outside and has a cold. Just like very rosy nose and cheeks. That's the vibe. She's always been like a fashion darling. I don't usually see the movies that she's in, to be honest. I think this is fine. I don't particularly care. Okay. So this is what people are referring to now as a Scandinavian scarf, which is completely ridiculous. This is a dupatta that is worn in South Asian cultures. This is appropriation, and many people in Gen Z, not just Gen Z, but like in fashion, have been appropriating this and then been marketing it as a Scandinavian scarf. That is not a thing. They were doing this with like bandanas as well, tying bandanas around people's heads. Chase Infinity. I mean, she looks great. That color looks beautiful on her. It's a weird picture that they have of Anne Hathaway. The dress is pretty. I like the gloves. Ryan Coogler, Zinzi Coogler. They both look amazing. Jessie Buckley. I think these colors are fun together. Here's Conan in a tux. Renate Rensby. I don't know who that is. Priyanka Chopra. And a Jonas. Nick Jonas, one of them. Demi Moore with all those feathers. That's pretty. There isn't anything that I'm like blown away by so far. Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons. I do like the velvet sports coat that he has on. Jacob Elordi. Just giving a thumbs up. Joel Edgerton. Leo with a mustache is interesting. Odessa Zion. I like this pose. I also like the embroidery on this. Also, that she's wearing pants is cool. Her hair always looks amazing, I have to say. Steven Spielberg. He also called out young Timothée on the Oscar carpet, apparently, where he was like, we need to support the arts and like communal experiences that we have in the dark with this like shared time that we have of experiencing live performance and art. And he was like, this also includes ballet and opera, by the way. And I'm like, drag him. I love that. Adrian Brody and whoever this is, Georgina Chapman. This is one of the more unusual cuts, like shapes, a silhouette for the dresses on the women that I've seen. Pedro Pascal. Oh, he's clean shaven. That little flower is cute. Benicio del Toro. Jack O'Connell. Who is that? Oh, he was in Dunhill. Mia Goth. The fact that Mia Goth wasn't nominated for any of the Maxine movies like X, I think is egregious. This dress is cool. This is one of the better dresses that I've seen so far. I like the asymmetry, like all of the detailing. Ellie Kemper. Supposedly she's like a MAGA favorite, so I'll skip her. Delroy Lindo. Looking great. The men are not that adventurous. Big news. Melissa and I settled on some colors for our living room. That's exciting. Yes, please do. I want to see. I love that. What vibe are you going for? Ew, this dress is so ugly to me. I don't care for Gwyneth Paltrow either. Yes, this like layering is interesting, but I'm not like wowed. Molly Sims. I don't know who that is. Josh Safdie is a director. I don't know who Sarah Rosen is. Warm and moody vibes. That's cool. Javier Bardem actually wearing some color. Having some advocacy on the carpet, which we love to see. We already saw Jacob Will Arnett. Most of the men just look the same. Whoa! Nick Cave. I'm more interested in her. She looks more interesting to me than this guy. He is like a six head. Six head represent, I guess. No offense. It's just an observation. Skarsgård's. Guess that's an interesting cut. That's not very flattering, though. Misty Copeland. Oh, that's not an accident that Misty Copeland was invited. She's a very famous ballet dancer for the New York City Ballet. The fact that young Timmy did not win and she was invited shows that they are upset. The Academy is upset by his comments. And that's funny to me because I feel like rarely are they correct about a lot of things. This also, like, tutu, the hint of it is really cute. Whoa! Conan's wife doing some sheer stuff. I love that. He's like, yeah, look at what she's wearing. Ryan Hawke and Ethan Hawke looking very intense. I feel like that he has a longer coat. Jennifer Goodwin. She looks familiar to me, but I don't know what I've seen her in. That dress is pretty. I do like the sheer aspect of it. I wish we had a better picture of the whole dress. This is one of the ones that I've enjoyed. Chloe Zhao, she directed Hamnet. I really like this. This is visually interesting. Like, what material is this? Or is that color that's splashed on? Paul Mescal. He was great in Hamnet. I also like this little, like, bow tie that's slightly different. That's a pretty dress. EJ? I don't know who Carrie Condon is. This is underwhelming to me. I don't like this. Oh, Kevin O'Leary. Look at what he's showing up in. This is interesting. Look at all this embroidery. I feel like this is appropriation, but I also don't know what his heritage is, so I won't comment because this is a style with a lot of South Asian fashions. Wound Me, oh, and she's pregnant. That color looks beautiful on her. Ooh. This may be my favorite so far. What the fuck is Kevin doing there? Who is he? Kevin O'Leary. I don't know who this is. Audrey Nuna. This is stunning. This is my favorite so far. I like the asymmetry. This is flattering where it like stops just below the bust line, like into the waistline to make the bottom half look longer. Joe Alwyn. I don't hate this. I also like his pose. He seems a little more relaxed than a lot of the men. Billionaire dickhead on Shark Tank. Okay, then never mind. Then never mind. He shouldn't be wearing that. It's probably appropriation if he's a billionaire. Louis Pullman. He looks familiar to me. Is he the guy that... He looks like the guy that played the brother of Lizzie McGuire. Felicity Jones. She's an Oscar darling. I mean, it's visually interesting, but it's not flattering at all, in my opinion. Ooh, Jeremy Pope looking amazing. Okay, really stunting on the men here. The best male look we've seen, in my opinion. Sandra Delgado, Wagner Mora. I don't know who these people are. Goldie Hawn. Oh, this is pretty. Ray Ami. We're getting more Asian fashion designers on this red carpet, more than I've ever seen at the Oscars, I think. Kathy Bates. She usually comes in something that looks a little more matronly, but I guess that's kind of what we expect a little bit. No offense. That color looks really pretty on her, though. This dress really needs to be steamed. Holy shit. Charithra Chandran. This color looks stunning on her. This is a pretty dress. I like this sculpture. It's a statement. I tend to like things that look a little more theatrical, though. I've seen this type of dress before. It still looks pretty on her. Joachim Trier and Hal Bendixson. I don't know who these people are. Emma Stone again. Danielle Brooks is so talented. And we're getting more cleavage. Love that. Getting some leg. Or is that just a shadow? I think that's just a shadow. Kristen Wiig. That's pretty. Jacoby Jupe. He was in Hamnet. An excellent child actor. Alicia Silverstone. What has she been in lately? She looks uncomfortable here. But the dress looks pretty on her. Kelly Ripa. Miles Caton. I like this color. Those shoes are really cool. Barbie Ferreira. This cut is very flattering on her. That color also looks very pretty. What material is this? Huh. Omar Benson Miller. McKenna Grace. I don't know who that is. Ariana Greenblatt. This is underwhelming to me. Odessa Zion again. Chase Stokes. I like the velvet double-breasted suit coat. Shabuzi. Shabuzi understands fashion. Lee Jun Lee. Ooh. And Gaurav Gupta. Gaurav Gupta does a lot of these sculptural pieces that plays with movement. Anything that looks like it's like being blown in the wind is usually his work. This looks really great on her too. Anna Cathcart. I think she was also in Hamnet. Mikey Madison. What has she been in lately? This color of red looks really pretty on her. I wish the lip color matched more. It was a little bit deeper. Isn't Shabuzi a musician? Mm-hmm. He is. He's a country music star. I wonder if he did music for any movies. I don't know who this is. Hudson Williams. That cut looks great on him. Natalie McQueen and Josh Groban. That color looks nice on her. I don't really know what's happening though. She's wearing like a cloak. Bobby Cannavale. We already saw her. They love getting double pictures of people. Bruna Marquezine. I don't know who that is. Florencia Martin. I don't know. I don't know these people. Shayna McHale. Yeah, she's Jungle Pussy. This dress is cool. Not a very common material. I know, it just is on who's invited to this stuff. It's an interesting mix of like people who actually worked on movies and then also people who were kind of just like in pop culture. Even if they don't have stuff coming out, if they've had a career or especially if they've been a winner in the past, they're still invited. Okay. I'm not impressed with this. Sigourney Weaver. Looking like she was beamed from the mothership. I don't hate the dress. I don't know why. She just looks uncomfortable. We're getting a lot of duplicates. Okay, here's one that we get more of the full dress. Yeah, I really like this dress. This is one of my favorites. Josh Dallas, he also looks good too. I'm always going to support a velvet most things, but especially a velvet suit coat. These bows are cute. Kieran Culkin. This color doesn't look that great on him, I have to say. We have Catherine Shepard, Brandy Carlisle, the lesbians, welcome for the night. What is Bella Thorne doing there? Spike Lee, Tanya Lewis-Lee. They always look great. They both understand fashion. Ryan Destiny. I don't know how I feel about this. It's interesting where it's like a shirt, but I don't know if I like that. That's just personal taste for me. Leah Mirren. I don't know what she's in. Mark Consuelos. Brittany Howard, a musician. I really like this coat. We seem to get more adventurous fashion from the musicians. Heidi Klum, because she's always at events like these. Tig Notaro and her partner. Ooh, this is cool. This is something not, like, unheard of. Like, I've seen stuff like this, but I like this, like, pleather, or maybe it's leather. No, I don't think that's leather. With this formal wear. I think that's cool. Okay, I'll look at two more and then I'll get into reading. Mason Thames. He has a good pose. Marseille Martin. And this color looks lovely on her. The fit is pretty. Yeah, Tiana again. Kelty Knight. Okay, I think I'm going to finish looking at these tomorrow because I am still very interested. Ali E. Carvalho. That's cool. This also looks like it's more traditional Pacific Islander design. They don't have the designer on here. I wonder if they're Pacific Islander. Milo Manheim. I don't know who that is. I do like the colors. Anytime someone gets out of like the regular stuff, especially the men, it really doesn't require a whole lot for them to be adventurous. Okay. Moving along. I have to get my reading gloves on. I really need to get some that are not this long. Because then I just like bunch it up when I have long sleeves. That's kind of a look. Hi, Teeny. Hi. I can get this one on. Come here. Come here, bug. Okay, so this is chapter 11. We saw that in the last chapter, Kathy This is the younger Catherine, because the older Catherine passed away, most likely from childbirth. Kathy keeps visiting Linton, and he was rude to her, but they eventually start liking each other even more. "These things happened last winter, sir," said Mrs. Dean. "Hardly more than a year ago. Last winter, I did not think at another 12 months' end I should be amusing a stranger to the family with relating them." Okay, so now we're pretty close in time, apparently. "Yet, who knows how long you'll be a stranger? You're too young to rest, always contented, living by yourself. And I some way fancy no one could see Catherine Linton and not love her. You smile, but why do you look so lively and interested when I talk about her? And why have you asked me to hang her picture over your fireplace? And why—" "Stop, my good friend," I cried. "It may be very possible that I should love her, but would she love me? I doubt it too much to venture my tranquility by running into temptation, and then my home is not here. I'm of the busy world, and to its arms I must return. Go on. Was Catherine obedient to her father's commands?" "She was," continued the housekeeper. "Her affection for him was still the chief sentiment in her heart, and he spoke without anger. He spoke in the deep tenderness of one about to leave his treasure amid perils and foes, where his remembered words would be the only aid that he could bequeath to guide her. He said to me a few days afterwards, 'I wish my nephew would write, Ellen, or call. Tell me sincerely what you think of him. Is he changed for the better, or is there a prospect of improvement as he grows a man?' 'He's very delicate, sir,' I replied, 'and scarcely likely to reach manhood. But this I can say, he does not resemble his father, and if Miss Catherine had the misfortune to marry him, he would not be beyond her control unless she were extremely and foolishly indulgent. However, master, you'll have plenty of time to get acquainted with him, and see whether he would suit her. It wants 4 years and more to his being of age.'" Edgar sighed, and walking to the window, looked out towards Gimmerton Kirk. It was a misty afternoon, but the February sun shone dimly, and we could just distinguish the 2 fir trees in the yard, and the sparely scattered gravestones. "I've prayed often," he half soliloquized, "for the approach of what is coming, and now I begin to shrink and fear it. I thought the memory of the hour I came down that glen a bridegroom would be less sweet than the anticipation that I was soon, in a few months, or possibly weeks, to be carried up and laid in its lonely hollow. Ellen, I've been very happy with my little Kathy." We have a footnote. So it's referring to Catherine's accusation to Heathcliff in Volume 2, Chapter 1. I don't know what that means. Catherine's accusation to Heathcliff. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. "Through the winter nights and summer days she was a living hope at my side, but I've been as happy musing by myself among those stones under that old church, lying through the long June evenings on the green mound of her mother's grave, and wishing, yearning for the time when I might lie beneath it. What can I do for Kathy? How must I quit her? I'd not care one moment for Linton being Heathcliff's son, nor for his taking her from me if he could console her for my loss. I'd not care that Heathcliff gained his ends and triumphed in robbing me of my last blessing. But should Linton be unworthy, only a feeble tool to his father, I cannot abandon her to him. And hard though it be to crush her buoyant spirit, I must persevere in making her sad while I live, and leaving her solitary when I die. Darling, I'd rather resign her to God and lay her in the earth before me. It's like I'd rather have her die than have her be lonely without me. It's like, okay. Why? Resign her to God as it is, sir, I answered, and if we should lose you, which he may forbid under his providence, I'll stand her friend and counselor to the last. Miss Catherine is a good girl. I don't fear that she will go willfully wrong, and people who do their duty are always finally rewarded. Okay, so I guess the last chapter, that's right. It ended with Edgar Linton saying that Catherine couldn't go see him anymore. So she's very sad. Spring advanced, yet my master gathered no real strength, because he was still sick. Though he resumed his walks in the grounds with his daughter, to her inexperienced notions, this itself was a sign of convalescence. And then his cheek was often flushed, and his eyes were bright. She felt sure of his recovering. On her 17th birthday, he did not visit the churchyard. It was raining, and I observed, "You'll surely not go out tonight, sir?" He answered, "No, I'll defer it this year, a little longer." He wrote again to Linton, expressing his great desire to see him, and had the invalid been presentable, I've no doubt his father would have permitted him to come. As it was, being instructed, he returned an answer intimating that Mr. Heathcliff objected to his calling at the Grange, but his uncle's kind remembrance delighted him, and he hoped to meet him sometimes in his rambles, and personally to petition that his cousin and he might not remain long so utterly divided. That part of his letter was simple, and probably his own. Heathcliff knew he could plead eloquently enough for Catherine's company. Then, "I do not ask," he said, so this is supposed to be Linton writing, "that she may visit here, but I am never to see her. Because my father forbids me to go to her home, and you forbid her to come to mine. Do, now and then, ride with her towards the heights, and let us exchange a few words in your presence. We have done nothing to deserve this separation, and you are not angry with me. You have no reason to dislike me. You allow yourself. Dear uncle, send me a kind note tomorrow, and leave to join you anywhere you please, except at Thrushcross Grange. I believe an interview would convince you that my father's character is not mine. He affirms I am more your nephew than his son, and though I have faults which render me unworthy of Catherine, she has excused them, and for her sake you should also. You inquire after my health. It is better, but while I remain cut off from all hope and doomed to solitude, or the society of those who never did and never will like me, how can I be cheerful and well?" Edgar, though he felt for the boy, could not consent to grant his request, because he could not accompany Catherine. He said in summer, perhaps, they might meet. Meantime, he wished him to continue writing at intervals, and engaged to give him what advice and comfort he was able by letter, being well aware of his hard position in his family. Linton complied, and he had been unrestrained, would probably have spoiled all by filling his epistles with complaints and lamentations, but his father kept a sharp watch over him, and of course insisted on every line that my master sent being shown. So, instead of penning his peculiar personal sufferings and distresses, the themes constantly uppermost in his thoughts, he harped on the cruel obligation of being held asunder from his friend and love, and gently intimated that Mr. Linton must allow an interview soon, or he should fear he was purposely deceiving him with empty promises. Cathy was a powerful ally at home, and between them they at length persuaded my master to acquiesce in their having a ride or a walk together, about once a week under my guardianship, and on the moors nearest the Grange. For June found him still declining, and though he had set aside yearly a portion of his income for my young lady's fortune, he had a natural desire that she might retain, or at least return, in a short time, to the house of her ancestors, and he considered her only prospect of doing that was by a union with his heir. He had no idea that the latter was failing almost as fast as himself, meaning Linton was also sick and was also dying. So it's not just Linton complaining. That's something, I mean, he does talk about his suffering, but also, like, he is dying. He is ill. He deals with a recurring chronic illness, from what it sounds like. Nor had anyone, I believe, no doctor visited the heights, and no one saw Master Heathcliff to make report of his condition among us. I, for my part, began to fancy my forebodings were false, and that he must be actually rallying when he mentioned riding and walking on the moors, and seemed so earnest in pursuing his object. I could not picture a father treating a dying child as tyrannically and wickedly as afterwards I learnt Heathcliff had treated him, to compel this apparent eagerness, his efforts redoubling the more imminently his avaricious and unfeeling plans were threatened with defeat by death. Oh, wow. I knew that was short, but yeah, that's the end of chapter 11. Okay. Short reading for today, but I'll leave chapter 12 for tomorrow. Anyway, tomorrow I'll continue looking at some of the Oscars looks, providing my commentary, because I'm petty and think I have great taste. So I'll continue that. And then also talk more about some educational things. So stay tuned. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you for being here. It was good chatting with you. I hope you have a good rest of your day, good rest of your evening, wherever you are. And I will see you soon. Okay, bye.